All right, peace, people. All right, we're going to get situated here. Just going to give a couple of minutes. Let some people gather in the room, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, here we go. All right. Well, peace, Tarek. Okay, we're just going to give it a couple of minutes. I see people starting to come in. We'll just give it a minute or two. Then we'll go ahead and get going. And I'll wait in a minute or two. I'm going to make a couple quick announcements. All right. Peace, Sister Myra. All right. Damn, can't get comfortable with these damn pills. All right. All right, just gonna give it a minute or two. And then we'll get going. All right. We'll go over that because I know last week I didn't get a chance to go in depth. All right. I'll scan through that in a minute. Everything is good. Black quartz, peace, sister of cool, double R, peace and greens. All right, I'm gonna just run through a couple quick announcements before we start. Number one, I know I said I wasn't gonna put out a flyer for December's event, but I just went ahead and just threw a quick one together just to put it out. Now, the only reason why I had said that originally was, again, I know December's a tough month to travel, so I didn't really want to put any public invite out there. I know it's a tough month to travel, not just because of the weather, but I know the airfares can be very expensive if you try to get them last minute. So I just decided to put a flyer out. If you are in the area and you would like to come, you can request that invite. That's entirely up to you. So I just figured I'd put it out there. I had originally I sent the flyer out last night, and it had Friday the 21st on it, but we changed it to Saturday the 22nd. Only because Sister Mandy's traveling, and she's bringing Dave and her family. So it wouldn't make sense to do it the day before, knowing that they were going to be here the next day. And again, this is just kind of something we were going to do locally, so it wasn't really no set day and time for it. So we were going to do it on Saturday, December 22nd, 8 p.m. We did one last year, or a little bit over a year ago. It was, if you missed that one, this one's going to be probably even more intense, this particular ritual. So that'll be on Saturday, December 22nd, 8 p.m. Now, I know on that Saturday, I will make the announcement to those that are taking the online classes on Saturday. I will make the announcement to you guys this week. We'll skip that Saturday, and that's supposed to be the last Saturday, the sixth and final session for this session. So we'll move that up 1 week. We'll probably just do that last session on the 29th, just to accommodate the ritual. But we'll talk further more about that later in the week. So that's what we got coming up. Again, it's something we had planned. We was going to do kind of, private and local amongst ourselves, but anybody pretty much is willing to come. I'm not expecting, too many people to travel from out of state. Again, I know it's a tough month to travel with the weather and the airfare being very expensive, but you guys are welcome to come if you're in the area. That coupled with, And I know a couple people had emailed me today about consultations. I got back to you. Again, just give me 2 days minimum to schedule accordingly. I just kind of go in order. I don't, no preferential treatment. I just take them as they come. And again, specify in the email if you want a reading or a consultation. There's a difference. Okay. And again, I know I explain it before every video, and I will continue to, just to save the initial email and the excess responding back and forth. A spiritual consultation, you can pretty much utilize that for a one-on-one session to discuss anything you want. People use it again to focus on specific areas of spirituality, specific things they got going on, etc. You pretty much dictate how you want to flow with that. A spiritual reading is using a system of divination, communicating with the spirits, and kind of just flowing with whatever comes through in that spiritual reading. So there is a difference. Specify, which one you are looking to do. If you can't get to me in person, I do it in a private Google video call, and I charge $52 to do that. You can pay by PayPal, or you can pay prior over before we start. That's entirely up to you. So I'll put that information out there just to save the initial email, because that's usually the first email you get. How does it work? How much does it cost? How long? And it lasts up until 1 hour, okay, max. Unless we get done a little bit prior to the hour, just all depends, but hour max. All right. So that's the basics. That's how it works. So you don't need to hit me up with asking those questions. If you are interested, just send me an initial email. Let me know your times and days that you are free and the best times to do it. And then we kind of just go from there. All right. I know also some of you emailed me, and I got back to 3 is today, about the next session. After this session ends at the end of the month for the online classes, we'll start another one in late March. Once this is over, I will put that curriculum together. I haven't even gotten that far. I'll start working on that sometime next month. Have that out by the end of January, and you'll get it at least almost 2 months prior to the session start. So don't worry about that. Right now, I'm just focusing on finishing this one. We still got 3 weeks left in this one. We're halfway through. Those that are taking it know it's a lot of ground that we're covering. We're actually having a lot of fun doing it too. Okay, having said that, I think I got through all the preliminaries and all the announcements and all the good stuff and the fun stuff. So I wanted to do a continuation. I know you might have looked at the title and said, what the fuck is that? The reason why I chose that title, in doing last week's video, I think it was a few days ago in the middle, or it might have been over the weekend, I can't remember. The title might be familiar to some of you, because you might say it sounds like a movie. It is a movie. There was a movie that was just recently out. I think it might still be in theaters or just came out of the theaters. If you have a app where you can stream live movies, I know it's not out on video yet, but you can stream it live if you have certain apps. There was a movie that Jack Black just put out, and it's called The House with the Clock and the Walls. And I had stumbled across it because, and I was talking, I was showing you guys how when you start using the Holy Death as the black aspect and working with it as a communicator, communicating with the spirits of the dead, etc. I know in my connection, when I have, the energy I've activated with the Holy Death, it'll use all different methods and methodologies to communicate with me. It's actually communicated with me through 2 movies. Prior to that, what actually motivated me to doing the first video last week, there's another video I suggest you check out, Peppermint, and that has Ben Affleck's ex-wife in there. Well, there's a lot of imagery and a lot of things with the Holy Death in that movie, even though some of it is ostracized as being negative, because it does deal with some of the aspects of how the Mexican drug cartels use the aspect of the Holy Death and Jesus Malverde, who, as I said before, when you see that image, if you've ever seen, you'll see some statues of it. You can pull up images of it. I talked about it last week. You'll see a statue of the Holy Death with her arms raised, and you'll see what appears to look like a Latino man sitting in her lap. Well, in that aspect, and again, that's a more modern day traditional aspect, they kind of utilize that aspect of Jesus Malverde being the son of the Holy Death. So a lot of them that are into that tradition will work with that aspect and energy. Well, in the movie Peppermint, you see a lot of that encoded. So I've just stumbled across these, not looking for them, literally, did something at my altar, got a communication. This just came to my head, saw the movie. Same thing with the second one, the house with the clock in the walls, heavily encoded with dealing with death, necromancy, the Holy Death, Grim Reaper aspect. So I kind of want to combine and connect that. The reason why I chose that topic, so now hopefully it makes sense to you now, I figure I kind of connect the two in the continuation. I do want to go over, and I'm only going to use the term that people are familiar with. I mentioned last week the ritual in the book by Tracy Rowland. It's actually a black magic ritual. It's not, I don't want nobody to look at it like prayer, because I'm going to go through some of the invocations, what we call, doing the invocations or reciting the invocations via the Holy Death Rosary. I showed you the beads last week, how it's done. It looks very similar to what some would know in Catholicism as the Rosary beads. But you gotta remember, when you're working magic, okay, as I went through last week, the Aztec roots, took it up into the modern day aspect of how it's used, its connection with Catholicism. As I said before, I work with all different aspects of it, but I adjust it. And always remember this, when you're on this path, the path to self-mastery, being a black adept, some call it the left-hand path, whatever you want to call it, makes you feel good. It's up to you as the god or the goddess to adjust and formulate things how you see fit to work correctly for you. Now, understand the difference between an invocation or an affirmation, right? Where prayers, when you're praying from a monotheistic perspective, and I want to make this clear, when you're praying from a monotheistic perspective, you're praying to a spook god that doesn't exist. I'm saying that to say, if somebody chooses to carry out this ritual, I don't want you to look at it as a monotheistic prayer, because that's not how the ritual per se is devised. When you're doing an invocation, remember, one of the most important things when you're working magic, whether it's individually or collectively, for an example, those that, or even if you haven't come in this area and done a ceremonial group ritual with us, if you've done it somewhere else with other people, you know the importance of performative utterance and invocations, because that's the power, the passion, and the energy that drives the ritual. When you're doing your invoking, your performative utterances, and your invocations, and some might even refer to them or connect the aspect of affirmations. Now, as I said before, you've heard me mention videos back, the root word affirm is in the word affirmation. So when you're making affirmations, and I would kind of look at it in that aspect, you're affirming what you already know. You understand? So I want you to look at, when you're doing these type of invocations or this type of work or working with this type of spirituality, basically what you're doing, you're activating the God or goddess self, the higher self that resides within. That's what you're activating. I want to make that clear. Like, all right, this past weekend when we did, I posted a little clip on the channel. Hopefully some of you guys saw it. When we did the Black Mass and the Eternal Word of Set ritual, we did the 19 parts of the 19 words of Set. And all of that links in, quote unquote, it connects the microcosm, the macrocosm, your connection to nature, creation, your higher self. It shows you how, and the breakdown and the meaning, how to activate those forces within yourself, because that's what Set does. That's what Set represents. That's what, again, I'm saying this so you can understand the purpose of performative utterance, especially in a group ritual or a group setting. So what I'm going to do first, and then I want to talk a little bit about the movie, And I would suggest if some of you guys seen it, you'll probably already have a heads up, especially if you're on this path and you're studying and reading. I'm sure you caught a lot of jewels in that movie from just the symbols in the house. I mean, you saw symbols of Baron Samedi, Mama Brigitte. They mentioned the spirit of Azazel. I'm going to get into a little bit more in depth. They had this image they flash when the young boy, which I'll get into a little bit more in a minute, goes to the cemetery. You see a Grim Reaper / Holy Death type of image. But I'll get into that in a second. I thought the movie, I picked up a lot out of the movie. Just watching all the stuff encoded in the house. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Some of the things they said, they showed you stuff I've been talking about for years, the power of specters. I told you about spirits that can read your subconscious mind and appear to you how you want to see them. Well, that was the example you saw when the little boy thought that whole time he was talking to his mother, because they're able to feed off of your subconscious. They're able to read your thoughts. So you have to understand, when you're working with spirits of the dead and you're activating these energies, you have to be conscious and aware. Now, some people will call it in certain circles trickster spirits, right? You hear that term come up in different circles and scenarios. I'm going to get a little bit into that because I keep telling people, make sure you're educated when you're carrying out this work, because if you jump into working with this type of energy carelessly, you can open yourself up to these specters / trickster spirits. But if you have done your due diligence, study, prepare yourself, it's very easy to detect them. It's only hard to detect them if you haven't done your research. That's why I keep telling people, don't just jump into shit without having, at least a thorough understanding, especially when you're working with darker energies, working with darker spirits. They can be very volatile. They can be very powerful. They can assist you in many different ways, but they can also, make things run amok if you're not really crystal clear on what you're doing. All right. So what I want to talk about first is, again, as I said, I'm not going to really be reading long parts from books anymore. I'm just kind of flow with it, but I'm going to just go through something briefly here, not reading, just kind of scan through it. Again, I suggested this book last week, which is probably I've read many different books, many different documents on the Holy Death. This is a great book. It's been out for a couple years. It's written by Tracy Rowland, Santa Muerte, The History, Rituals, and Magic of Our Lady of the Holy Death. She's another one like Conjure Man Ali. I like how she ties it and connects the ancient origin and roots of the Holy Death. She connects it to the Aztecs, the Maya. She also gives you some brief breakdown through the Caribbean and Africa. As I said last week, you'll see the connection to Yansa, some who know her as Oya. She shows how it's synchronized with many different spirits and many different cultures and pantheons and spiritual systems. It's good to know all that, because when you're working with this energy, you're activating all of those aspects. One thing people are not aware of, depending on what's dominant and running through your blood, especially when you're working with spirits that are synchronized in many different cultures and many different practices, you're going to activate the one more than likely that's mostly connected to you by bloodline. So, for an example, why is that? Because I keep telling people, if you're paying attention, there's a strong link and connection with ancestral worship with this kind of work and how you do it and carry out, because you're going to activate those things that are dormant and connected in your DNA and your bloodline. For an example, modern day, as I said, as is practiced in Mexico today, because there's a history of that's connected through that tradition, through those people and that culture, they will activate or tend to practice and be most successful with that aspect of it, even though it's a modern day traditional aspect of it. I know it's been a bit watered down with Catholicism, just like Ifa has via Santeria, and how it's practiced in the Latino community, and even you have even a lot of people in the Caribbean utilize the aspect of it. So I'm saying, when you look at it in essence, that's entirely up to you how you choose to use it, whatever works for you, and your spirit will communicate that aspect. See, I stopped or I tell people, don't get caught up in which one you should or should not do. Nobody should tell you that. You should be able to make that decision for yourself. Whatever your spirit and energy is vibing with, that's the aspect you work with. That's the aspect you connect with. If you're linked in and tuned in, you'll get that communication. You'll get that message. So it's irrelevant of how you choose to work with. It's just as long as the path or the method you're utilizing to work with the Holy Death, as long as it feels right for you, you're getting results. That's all that matters. And again, sometimes people overthink shit because they're trying to be too perfect or they're trying to be too exclusive to something. And again, I want to make this clear. When you're working this path of self-mastery and you're an adept, right, you have to learn to cross cultural barriers. Stop getting comfortable with shit because you were raised a certain way that you're only supposed to do it like this. That is a bunch of bullshit, and it's something that will hold you back. And I said, no, it doesn't matter what spiritual system you use, what branch of magic, from wherever it has its origins in whatever culture, you're the master, you're the god or the goddess. You're able to, you don't let the system control you, you control the system because you're in control, whatever that system is you're using. So don't feel like people tend to feel because if they're a certain ethnicity or they were brought up in a certain culture, they need to practice the spiritual traditions only that are connected to that culture. If that's your choice, that's your choice, fine. But what I'm trying to tell you is you're really limiting yourself. You got to learn to realize most of these systems are synchronized with many other systems and many other different cultures and traditions. I can only speak for myself and my experience. I could take anything and make it work for me. I don't care what it is. I don't vibe too much on focus on that anymore. I focus on, does it resonate with me? How can I utilize this to get results? And how can this make me a better person? How can I evolve and change and become better from what I am now? And again, let me reiterate this: real, quote unquote, working with the spirits of the dead / necromancy, whatever you want to call it, and being connected to the death current. The purpose of that is simply for change, growth, and results. If you're not changing, constantly changing and growing, then you are not really working with the death current, okay? It's not just about, again, the gloom and the doom and the cemeteries and skulls and graveyard powder. That's the elements, the imagery that comes along with working some of the ritualistic practices because what they represent and symbolize, no doubt. But real connection with working, quote unquote, the death current and the spirits of the dead is constant growth and change. Again, if you're not changing and growing, if you're still stagnated, you don't see any growth or change. And one thing, again, when you work with this type of energy and the spirits, the change is rapid. It's quick. It can be very intense. I've talked a bit about that. So make sure you're prepared to work, deal, and experience that. That's why some people open up a door, or you hear that term, a can of worms, and they're not prepared to absorb and receive the energy that's getting ready to come their way. That's why I said, do your due diligence, do your preparation, do your study. Because anytime you go into a magical practice or try to carry out some type of working and you have too much doubts and questions, there's your answer. You shouldn't fuck with it at the moment. Because the very fact, if you're not going into any working or any ritual 100% confident, feeling 100% sure, like no doubt in your mind, this is what you want to do. You don't have any doubts. You don't have any reservations. You're not questioning yourself. Then that's confirmation from within. You are prepared to experience and receive what's going to come from that working, that ritual, that energy. If you're second guessing it, you got shit running through your mind and you're questioning yourself and you're doubting this and you're doubting that, one, you're creating obstructions and blockages. 9 out of 10 times the shit ain't going to work because you're too focused on all that bullshit and the mind is not focused on fueling the intent. Then there's your answer. And I always tell people, that's how you know. See, you've been hearing me say for the last month and a half, learn to trust the messages you receive. I keep telling people that. People are constantly looking for somebody to validate their personal journey. Can't do it. You gotta put on your big boy fucking underwears and your big girl drawers and start making decisions for yourself. You got to stop always trying to get validation from things outside of ourselves, including certain people. Then that shows you don't have confidence within yourself as a god or a goddess to make these decisions. There's only some things you can get help and assistance with. And again, I've said this a million times. I'm not saying you can't have elders and guides teachers and people to assist you to get guidance and information from. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying you're going to find out in this journey, there are some things that nobody can help you with, okay? There are some things, because that's what makes you a god or a goddess and evolve and change. Standing on your own and making them critical decisions. Go back to the videos I did a month or two ago about critical thinking, right? I keep saying this path is about being a critical thinker. If you're not a critical thinker, you're not probably going to have consistent success. Unless you're just one of those flash in the pan, gifted people that are special and on LinkedIn. They exist. They're few and far in between. It's like basketball. There's a Michael Jordan that comes along every once in a while. There's a LeBron James that comes along every once in a while. There's a Walter Payton that comes along every once in a while, etc. You get my point with my sports analogies. Most of us probably aren't that. Maybe one out of every X amount has that ability. It exists. It happens. But it's very rare. All right. So contemplate those things. All right. So the Rosary of Santa Muerte, right? We refer to those not as rosary beads, as meditation beads, because each one of those beads, you're focusing on an aspect of what you're invoking. So I'm going to give you an example. You can read for yourself in the book of how it's carried out. You'll see the diagram, how it's used, which I'm going to skip all that because, again, I told you I'm not going to be really reading anymore from books. I want to just focus on some of the invocations, which I think are very powerful. Now, if you do have the book, it gives you the history of the traditional rosary, so you understand that. And then it gives you the history or the origin and the correct way to use the Santa Muerte rosary. Now, you can adjust this too as you see fit. You might come up with your own personal invocations and ritual using these meditation beads, however you see fit. I'm just going to use this blueprint, all right? But if you have the book on page 145, you can also get this in PDF format on Scribe. They do have it, all right? Let me just give you an example of, and again, you can adjust this, all right? It says, find a quiet place where you can be alone for about 10 to 40 minutes. It takes about 25 minutes, actually, 30 minutes. Well, I guess it depends on your speed and your rhythm. Now, one thing I've done and how I like to work with the Holy Death, which I'll be doing this after I get off the air, I've used this as a pact. It's when you're making pact with spirits, make sure you keep them, especially with the Holy Death, because it's a very possessive, a very controlling energy, and it can become very demanding, especially if you back away from your pacts. All right. I kind of use this as a bond and a connection to seal a pact that I've made by reciting this. Now, there's a part in there, the black magic element, which I'm going to get in. You could actually use this to do work too. So I want people to see this so they can understand. So you find a quiet place where you can have about 10 to 40 minutes. You'll keep a purpose in mind while you do these recitations, which helps you to direct your energy. So you should have a purpose of why you're activating these energies that are connected to the Holy Death. All right. You can do, as it suggests in here, not mandatory. You can do some type of banishing ritual prior to before you start, some type of cleansing your your space. If you like to cast a hermetic circle, if you like to draw a sigil, you can create anything to, sanctify your personal space, which puts you in a certain mental mind frame. That's the purpose. I don't like to use the word banishing, as I said many times in the past, because I don't believe in destroying any energy. I believe all energy is productive. It's just how you utilize it. What I like to do, I look at that as when you're drawing sigils or casting a hermetic circle, you're locking in the power and the energy of your sacred space. Because what we're determining or saying could be negative energy, I don't look at it like that. All energy has its purpose. It's just knowing how to utilize it at the correct moments and for the proper reasons. So it's all the mental approach. That's entirely up to you. If you like to banish and you look at banishing as removing some type of possible energy that could be leaking in, destroying it, that's entirely up to you. But as from a Luciferian mind, I don't look at it like that. But if you do, I respect that. That's entirely up to you. All right. Then it says, it shows you, which I'm not going to get into all that. I just want to go through some of the invocations to show you. And I'll show you where I made some of the changes when I actually do this ritual. All right. It shows you each bead, what it represents, and it has recitations for them. Now, feel free to adjust that too. Like here's one, for example, it says, I believe. Now, remember, there's a difference between personal belief on this path and belief in yourself as opposed to belief, not belief in some fictitious God that doesn't exist. But here's an example, and feel free to change the words. I believe in the power of Santa Muerte, the Holy Queen of Death, who is the keeper of the living and the protector of the dead. I believe in the power of Santa Muerte, the beautiful skinny girl. They call that, and that actually, the concept of referring to her as the skinny girl comes from the Aztec Mayan roots, because when you go into the Borgia Codex that I was talking about last week, and you see the story of the actual Aztec goddess of the underworld, how she is depicted, and in that codex, it's recorded how she was breastfeeding her children, feeding them blood, which represented the life. But that's where you get that term. And you're going to see some of the ancient Aztec origin and roots have gotten filtered in, just like, look at it like Santeria. You'll see a mixture of some of the ancient Aztec Maya roots, and you'll see it connected to modern day traditions, and then some Catholicism has crept in there. And again, even the connection through Africa we talked about last week with Oyas and Telenodoki, Iansa, different names. In Brazil, they call it Iansa. There's that synchronization with the Holy Death. You can find it in many different cultures. It's right there. Just got to look. Okay, then it goes on to say, who sees all things and forgives all sins, not religious. Listen closely now. I believe in the power of Santa Muerte, the royal bone mother, whose authority is vast and her power absolute. I believe in the power of Santa Muerte, the wise old woman, whose judgment is both sure and swift. Santa Muerte, most beautiful queen of death, I accept your power under the mantle of your protection and ask that you guide me and guard me now. Now, you could say, so mote it be, it says here. There, I like to say, so it is done. Remember, when you're working black magic, I don't like to say, so mote it be, because that leaves the door open as if you have no control. Now, so mote it be comes from what I call high magical systems, and high magic really isn't black magic, and it isn't white magic. I call it gray side of magic. That term, so mote it be, being a Rosicrucian, 11th degree Rosicrucian, you'll find it used in schools of alchemy. The Rosicrucian order uses it in a lot of their rituals, etc. You'll see it in the Order of the Golden Dawn. You'll even see it in the OTO, the Order Templi Orientis. It's a very common alchemical phrase in a lot of those circles. So mote it be means so whatever happens, happens. I don't fuck with that. So the difference, what I'll do, and this is the opening invocation of the ritual, I'll say, and so it is done. Because when you say so it is done, you put finality on the work. It is done. It is done according to your will. And you leave it there. You don't second guess it. You don't fuck with it. So it is done. Get in the little habit of that, because what that does is start to stamp in your subconscious mind, and it affirms and it confirms within the success of the work you're trying to carry out. You may not realize it when you're doing it, that something so small and minute has that much effect, but believe me, it does. So start saying that, right? Then it shows you, how to go counterclockwise around the beads. And here's another one for an example. There's a part here where you stop and fuel your intent, and you can also use this, which you can read this on your own time. You can use this particular work or ritual, whether it's for a favor you're trying to gain, if you're working, trying to get results financially. You can even use this in a destructive aspect if you're trying to overcome or dominate or destroy your enemy. That's entirely up to you. That's personal. The invocations speak for themselves. I just wanted to read the introduction one just to give you an idea. But again, you can feel free, if you see fit, make whatever adjustments you see. There is, I want to make this clear, there is no right or wrong way. The only right way is how you see fit. So If you're looking to work, for an example, with the Holy Death, and you're looking to find a working that's very quick and effective, that would be one of them. I would highly suggest that. But again, understand the aspects that we went through last week, how to work, what the different colors represent. Remember, as I said last week, in some circles, you'll hear that most people who work with the Holy Death, be they a high priest or priestess, or just somebody who has experience working with the Holy Death, will tell you that you shouldn't, when you set up an altar for the Holy Death, you should not, share her space with anybody else, except in some spiritual circles, they say the 7 African powers is really the only space that she has no problem sharing with. Now, I went over last week the 7-colored aspect of the Holy Death. And in some African spiritual systems, the origin and root is that's why she has those 7 colors, because she's connected with that aspect of the 7 African powers, which are Gede, spirits of the dead, gatekeepers, road openers. Now, I work voodoo and black magic in that path, and that's the aspect I work with the 7 African powers. I mentioned that last week. So I do see that energy and connection with that aspect of Holy Death. Now, understand the colors when you're carrying out rituals, because I'm not going to go back over it again. But if you go watch last week's video, it shows you what each color represents and the suggested use energy-wise, how to work that with magic. As I said, we'll go like red, dealing with things of passion, love, sex, or trying to get some type of result or issue resolved. White could be working some type of healing magic. Black, which is used for a multitude of aspects. I can use the black aspect for anything. And if you go into Conjure Man Ali's book, The Holy Death, he talks about that, which I find pretty unique. He talks about that. One of the known aspects of the black aspect of working with the Holy Death is using it as a communicator with the spirits of the dead. So if your interest is to work and activate, let's say, necromancy and communicate with the dead, that would be a good aspect to work with. So again, familiarize yourself with that. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get to your questions in a minute. So type them in. I hope you got some good questions tonight. Type them in. This will be the last series on this. I'm thinking about next week because it's calling me and I'm looking over there and I'm getting the communication as I'm doing this video because it keeps getting my attention over there. I'm thinking about doing a video on the spirit of Saint Expedite. Some know it San Expedito. The different aspects, whether you're using it as the traditional aspect of it in New Orleans, hoodoo voodoo, or you're using it and synchronizing it with Baron Samedi or one of Baron LaCroix. People will use it with both. But I'm going to talk about the importance of working with that spirit. That's something I've been working with for a minute. I'll go over that next week. But that's kind of what's calling me right now. If you work that kind of path. Dealing with voodoo and black magic. So what I want to talk about briefly, and then I'll go into your questions. I'm gonna start from the top. I ain't gonna miss none of your questions. I want to talk about the movie. The second part of why I titled this video, The House with the Clock in the Walls. Let's talk about that movie real quick. If some of you've seen it, you'll be able to grasp what I'm getting ready to talk about. Even if you haven't, if you're on this path, you'll understand it. I don't mean to spoil a movie for you, so I'm probably going to fuck it up a little bit for you, but you'll still enjoy it one way or the other. So there will be some spoiler alerts in there, okay? The symbolism of the clocks, you'll see in the movie, and there's a connection with the micro and the macrocosm, with nature and creation. It's all centered around these clocks and this eclipse that's getting ready to happen. So there's a timing of the ritual. You're dealing with the lunar cycles and the lunar energies. And remember, if you understand, the deity that ties into the lunar is the baboon deity, which ties into Tahuti. Tahuti deals with the knowledge, the wisdom, and the intellect activated by the lunar. So that they had all that symbolism in there, just had to be paying attention and watching. Now, the clocks represents time, or the false illusion of time, because there is a whole breakdown. You got to really pay attention, because you say, why all these clocks? Why I got all these clocks everywhere in the house? There was a thing of dealing with synchronization. So understand, timing is very important, especially in certain types of rituals of magic that you're working. It's not so much the false calculation of time. it's calculating the right moment. It wasn't the physical time with the clocks. It was calculating the moments to connect with the real time, which deals with nature. All right. Now, the house was previously owned. They show you this guy that had, gotten killed, and he had his wife, and she was a witch. And she looks, pay attention, because they really make her, and look at her colors and the imagery and the purple. They really make her look like Maman Brigitte when you really watch it. Well, he's passed on, but they know that his spirit's getting ready to return during this eclipse, because they're living in the house, and they're trying to prevent this from happening, because he's coming back, and he has to come back at the right moment in time to accomplish what he's trying to accomplish, which is dominance and control. And and it's always about destroying something and regenerating and recycling it and making it new. Now, they always make it look bad. I always tell you guys this, and you guys probably know this now for years watching these type of movies, or movies in general, be it X-Men, Star Wars, or something like that. The bad guys, quote unquote, villains, are always telling the truth. They're dropping the signs, even though the storyline, they depict them as, they depict them as some, horrible, evil monsters, but they're the ones always dropping the signs. All right. Now, you got the gist of Jack Black, the house, and who used to live in the house. Well, the movie starts off where his nephew comes to live with him because his parents died in a tragic accident. All right. Now, that individual or that boy represents all of us. Now, when you're watching these movies, they're always telling you the journey that the magician is taking. The boy comes into it first, not knowing nothing about it. But then as the movie goes on, he starts to unlock, obviously, his ability and his powers. That represents us. We all started out on that path like that, not knowing nothing. And the awareness starts to grow and change as we tap into certain things and experience certain things. Well, this boy starts to realize that, obviously, as the movie goes on. Now, Jack Black is a magician. The woman, Jane Blanchett, if that's her name, I might have fucked that up. His co-star in there, she's a popular actress. If somebody knows her name, they can type it in. I can't remember her name. She is a practicing witch. Now, she represents a lot of individuals who can't unlock the power, because you find out as the story goes on, she's dealing with blockages and issues, right? And there's one statement that stands out from the movie, right? Real magic comes from within, right? You hear that term a couple of times in the movie. She's battling with her own personal issues, and it's blocking the effectiveness of her magic. That sounds very familiar, don't it? Okay. That should be a telltale sign of people that watch that are on this path, to show you why you don't get results. Because if real, true magic comes from within, if within is jacked up, how are you going to get any results? Well, she was dealing with some personal issues, some hangups. She realizes that's what was blocking her. And you see as the movie goes on, she starts to overcome that. You're seeing many different themes that you can connect to yourself. And I'm watching this unfold. When you see him walking through the house, pay attention to the windows and the imagery. You see images, again, as I said before, of the barons, of Maman Brigitte, different spirits of the dead. You see all these different imageries. And then he has this book locked up, this necromancy book that he keeps locked up, which has invocations in there to invoke the dead or wake the spirits of the dead. Well, the nephew decides to gain, some popularity with a kid he's trying to be friends with. They decide they're going to go to the cemetery and do this. When he walks right in the cemetery, pay attention, because they're speaking 1,000 words. As they walk in, you see lightning strike, and then right behind him is this big Grim Reaper image. Looks just like the Holy Death. So that's telling you where they're getting ready to go, what they're getting ready to do. Well, they invoke the spirit of this guy that used to own the house. And that's why the book was locked up. They were trying to prevent it from happening, because this spirit was trying to wake up and get this access to this book, etc. I'm getting a fast version. Watch the movie. And then he's telling his story. And then he's saying what energy he's activating. He mentions when he says, Jack Black says to him, he understands that he suffered a tragic death. They show you how he was in some forest. But he says, I didn't suffer a tragic death. I actually became awakened, and I tapped into the spirit of Azazel. right? Now you're getting a Zazel, you're getting a Holy Death. You're seeing all these black magic over themes, necromancy, working with the spirits of the dead. They're tying all this shit in together. Now, mind you, this is supposed to be a family type of entertainment movie. But most people who, if you're not on this path, you're not going to really understand the movie like that. You're going to look at it as just being very entertaining, okay? So, again, I don't want to ruin everything for you, but I just want you to see what it's connected with, what they're talking about in there. You'll see how the movie ends. You'll see some of the old, some of the themes in it. I just want to throw some of the main ones. I want you guys to actually go out and watch that movie or live stream to get access to it in some shape, form, or fashion. As I said before, I believe he just left it there. It might still be in. I'm not sure. I know it's not available like on DVD, Blu-ray yet, but you can, if you have live movie streams, websites, you can stream it. Find some type of stream of it. But again, it's another movie, as usual, communicating so much information that most people ain't even paying attention to it. I mean, from the images to they even talk about using herbs and witchcraft and mentioning specific herbs in the movie. They even talk about casting black magic spells, different types of magic. You understand? It's crazy. There's so much stuff loaded in there that you just got to pay attention. And it is one of the movies. It's not one of the movies you can constantly leave, like go to the bathroom, come back, because they're flashing so many subliminals through the screen throughout the entire movie. You can miss shit. It's one of them movies where you got to be zoned in, watching it, not missing anything, because shit will fly up over your head. You'll miss it. But anyway, I suggest you guys go out and see it if you haven't seen it. I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. All right. I'm going to go through some of your comments and your questions. If you haven't typed in yet, start typing in now. This way we have time to get to everything. So I'm going to start at the top. So if you just recently typed something in, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I'm just going to start from top and work my way down. All right. So peace and greetings to everybody, to save time on that. If I didn't greet you when you came in the room, peace and greetings. And again, if you just came in now, I said earlier before everybody came in, originally we had decided that we were just going to do something private here, which we are for the month of December. And I really was going to put out a public invite due to the fact I know December could be a tough month to travel due to the weather and due to the expensive airfare because of this time of year with the holidays. I know airfares are very expensive. But I just put it out there. If anybody is in the area and they would like to request an invite and attend, feel free. I know we have a couple people who will be here. I know Mandy and her family are traveling, and we may have one or two others, and then the regulars that we have here. So I just put it out there for that. So I'm not expecting many people to travel from out of state due to that fact, which is totally understandable. All right. So again, peace and greetings to everybody. If I didn't greet you personally, let me see what questions and comments I got, and I'll start addressing that. Yes, Mama Muerte, aka Mandy, bring your Holy Death Rosary or your Holy Death meditation beads. That will be part of the ritual. There will be some drumming there. There will also be something going on prior to that, which I'm not going to talk about here. You're going to see, there's going to be some different things you're going to see at this particular working ritual. It's a very powerful, intense energy. I'm just going to put that out there now. It's very raw and aggressive, if that's the best way I can describe it. Holy Death, when that energy comes, it does not play. It's also on the flip note, having said that part, it's also a very regenerating, refreshing, changing energy. You definitely feel it immediately. Its effects are long. I literally still have some people email me from the last one we did, and that was well over a year ago. When I say email me, tell me, the things that have changed, the stuff they experience, and how they're able to draw upon that and create other avenues and do other things with it. And that's the beauty of it. And again, I have to throw out there and stress, It's not. This is for big boys and big girls. This ain't for little kids. And I say that because of the intensity and the tremendous power and change it brings. It's not for everybody, just like every path isn't for everybody for certain reasons. But the best way I can describe it is intense, very raw, powerful energy, and tumultuous and changing, if that's the best word I could use. All right. So definitely, if you're coming to the ritual on the 22nd, and bring your holy death meditation beads and have some comfortable shoes you can move around in. That's the best thing I can tell you. All right. Brother Gilberto, I've been looking forward to this all week. I got some questions for you, Brother B. I've been writing them down all week. All right, so I'll keep scrolling down. Hopefully you typed some of those in. All right. Let's see. All right, hold on. All right. Okay, you got the book too. Yeah. Again, there's many different books. Any subject matter that I talk about, there's so many different books out there on it. I just throw a couple out there. I always encourage and suggest to people, read and absorb and study as much as you can. You'll learn something from it. Like, again, Conjure Man Ali, I think, is a great. Thomas Lowe is another one. He's put out a good book on the Holy Death. It's very popular. This one here, I've just found resonates with me. The one, Tracy Rowland, she grew up in New Mexico, so she grew up around the culture. Even though she wasn't, quote unquote, she's a practitioner later in life. She used to be a Catholic. She tells you about her experiences, but growing up in New Mexico, she's very connected to it and connected to people that are. But again, the work speaks for itself. But I would also recommend you do your research and study the Aztec roots of the Holy Death. And you'll find some indigenous Aztecs are not really thrilled or really appreciate the Catholicism that was mixed in, because they believe it takes from the purity of the essence of what we call the Holy Death today, which I kind of am in agreement with, but I don't judge people, because the real magic is in here. And I don't care what aspect you work with it. You are the one fueling it. You are the one giving it life. You're the one giving it energy. So I don't give a fuck if you're working with Papa Smurf. I'm not even saying that to be funny. If you want to find the magical aspect and energies of motherfucking Papa Smurf, you can do it. That's entirely up to you. Because if real magic comes from within, and that's going to be something I'm going to say a lot now, and that's probably the phrase from that movie that just has resonated with me, because it explains, and that's what I'm going to tell people. If real magic comes from within, this needs to be right in here and in here. If it's not, what you're going to manifest externally is going to be shit. Okay. All right. So what else we got? Black Quartz typed in reference to the movie. The movie is actually pretty cool, dealing with magic. It is. It's very entertaining. A lot of overtones in it, dealing with magic. They throw of course, it's a Hollywood movie. They throw their little fig. One thing you got to understand, obviously, when you watch these movies, because they know they're not, obviously, people like us that are on this path, we can pull out the fallacies and connect the realities. But you got to remember, that's what they do. They take a lot of, mythology and untruths, and they mix it all in with facts and actual magical principles. It's just what they do. But you got to bypass that and look at it as an adept on this path and what you're getting out of it. And again, I think the movie is very entertaining and it has a lot of information in it, because I'm not looking at it like, the regular movie going in the movie theater that's just there for entertainment. I'm looking at it as both entertainment and I'm also learning. But again, how I stumbled across that, and I'm going to get into the Peppermint movie too. When you work with the aspect, again, as I said earlier, the Holy Death as a communicator, the Holy Death will communicate through you through so many different venues. Whether you're just out and about, your attention will be focused on things you need to see, whether it's in a communication with the self, or whether it's making things manifest externally, like drawing your attention to certain movies. And like I say, it's not like I sat down and was scrolling through and seeing. It's just I saw them in here, and then when I stumbled across them, I said, all right, bam, I found them, and I said, okay, now I see why I had to watch them, because they're both overlaid and with tons of information. if you're watching closely with the Holy Death. All right. So what else we got? Viva mi santísima muerte siempre. Yep. Okay, so my Muerte touched in the house with the clock and was born. The kids love it. To become a true sorcerer, you must use your own magic. Great move. Yeah. Again, the main thing, it's about self-mastery. It's about you. When it says magic comes from within, it's about you drawing, tapping into your higher self, your personal daemon, whatever you want to call, and unlocking that hidden potential and power that resides within all of us. I mean, I just don't know how many times we get this message over and over, and we fail. I'm not saying us per se, but people fail to see the essence of the theme, and it's the same theme over and over. You've been duped. You're under so many illusions. Your shortcomings and these illusions and these misconceptions are holding you back. That's why you're not able to unlock that power within or that magic within. It's showing you all the blockages. Now I'm not gonna get into depth, but we just went through in last Saturday's sessions, we went into depth in blockages, traumas, and issues in detail and depth. We did some exercises. I'm not gonna get, but it's funny how all this is in unison in time. And then I stumble across this, and I see how it's all connected. That's what I'm saying is that's the way when you're working with a communicator aspect of the spirits of the dead, such as the black aspect of the Holy Death, you start to get all these communications. Things start to synchronize, start to work in harmony with each other. You're going to find that you're seeing areas of your personal life, professional life, all that is kind of intertwined and connected. That's what I meant earlier when I said, well, you see the growth and the change. If you ain't seeing that, you're not connected to shit. I'm just going to be honest with you. It don't mean because you put on a black robe and light some black candles with some skulls and say whatever you said. That doesn't mean, it just means you've lit a black candle with some skulls and said some invocations. But if you're not getting the results and the power and the passion ain't driven in the intent that you set out to do the ritual, it's pointless, right? Because of what? It comes from within. And you can't do shit, the term we used to use years ago, faking the funk, right? Main source, right? You can't fake the funk. And that's why I keep telling people on this path, you can't fake the funk. You can do that shit on any other path. You can be a hotepper and put on all your Egyptian regalia and say hotep and, peace family, peace my goddess, and peace my queen. It's beautiful. Love it. Sounds great. That's all it is. It just looks good and sounds great. If there ain't no results, if there ain't no change, ain't no growth, who cares? You could put on, your dashiki, and you could put on your alekes. You could put on, say alafia, ashe, your head wraps, your afros, your natural hair, whatever. You do all those things. Looks beautiful. Hey, and however you see fit, you need to look. But if it's just something you're professing with the tongue and it's not genuine from here and here, again, waste of time. That's the reality, right? And working this path, you can't fake the funk, because you heard me say something months back, actually going back to about a year and some change now. Real magic. You're gonna have to at some point demonstrate to show and prove your power as a black adept. You will be called to do that at some point, in some circle, at some moment. You must show and prove and demonstrate that power and that ability. This ain't just because I've picked up a book, read some information on a particular spiritual system, so now I'm going to put on the attire and the symbols, and now I'm going to be a self-professed hotepper or whatever the fuck it is you're trying to be. That's not how this path works. If you're wearing the Baphomet, right, a very popular symbol, it's become commercialized, in my opinion, nowadays. You're wearing, the skull or whatever. You're going to be called to explain what those symbols represent to you. You will be tested. Not the generic definition you read in a book, not what you heard in a lecture, not even what you heard me talk about in this video. As a god or a goddess, when I pick people's brains, I want to hear, what does it mean to you? because that's what being a god or a goddess means. You got to be able to explain how does it correlate to you in your work, in what you do, and how you connect with it. Because you can't be some generic answer, and we all can't have the same definition and meaning. You understand? Because they take on a multitude of meanings. So when we say represent, and I know the circles I've run in this with for years, and something that's done privately behind doors, you will be tested. You will be asked to show, improve, and demonstrate. Because where I'm at, it's just me. I can only speak for myself. I can smell a bullshitter a mile away. Okay. And it's not just because we've all bullshitted at some point in time. It's just because when you've dealt with the fake bullshit part of it, and now you've come into the realization and you've waking that, look, I didn't know nothing then. Now I know because I'm seeing it, experiencing, and getting results. You could smell a bullshitter from a mile away. You know, the ones, I told you, the ones I've seen come and go on this path in the last 20 years, the ones that come on, they're so gung-ho, they're so dark, and they're so heavy black magic. That motherfuckers disappear in a matter of a year to 2 years. When they ain't getting their way, it ain't going like they want, or they ain't getting the attention they seek. And anybody that works with me knows me. I ain't coddling you. You ain't gonna sit on my lap. I ain't rocking you back and forth. And I ain't catering you to your motherfucking emotions. I just don't. Anybody that works with me knows that. You're gonna be a man or a woman and stand on your own. You understand? That's because that's how I learned. And I can only teach the way that I learned. And I'm not about coddling people. Now, I empathize. Now, understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sometimes when you give some people too much sympathy, they take advantage of you. Hence, you have that phrase, sometimes people mistake your kindness for weakness. On this path, we learn to empathize with people. We understand your plight. I understand your situation. But I'm not going to fucking collar you and baby you. You understand? You must. That's why I said earlier, trust your messages. Trust the messages that you're receiving. Stop relying on everybody to give you the answers to everything, because when you're on this journey and this path as an adept on the path of self-mastery, remember, the isolated consciousness of set can be a very lonely place sometimes. Very lonely, where sometimes you feel alienated from the world. You feel like you have no friends. You feel like you can't talk to nobody because they don't understand you. They don't understand the shit you know and the shit you're going through. Well, welcome to, it's called motherfucking life. Welcome. Join us at the table of life. That's what it's called. It's called now you've actually woken up, and when all the illusions of the world are stripped away and you see it for what it is, not for what you wanted to see it as. Because remember, we're preconditioned from the very moment we come out of our mother's womb, from a little kid, a little baby, to a child, to an adolescent, to a teen, to an adult. This programming is nonstop. We're spoon-fed all the illusions. And one of the biggest wake-up calls you're going to receive on this path, when that's all stripped away, that's when you know you tapped into this isolated consciousness of set. You say, holy shit. Damn, I was looking at shit all fucked up. Damn, that's not what I thought it was. Holy shit. You're going to see how everything you look at, you ain't never going to look at the same. And with that can come that alienation and that loneliness, feeling like you're alienated from things. You know how many emails I get where people say, man, and this becomes very intense in the beginning stages on this path. I get that email all the time. Man, I just feel like I'm going. Your social circles are going to change. I guarantee you, if you're really locked in this path, within a year to 3 years' time, you probably won't be dealing with half of the people you were dealing with when you first came on this path. I can almost put money on that. You might have one or two because they're probably some of your genuine friends, but I guarantee you, your whole social circle changes. Literally everything is turned upside down. And there's a reason for that. And it's going to take on a different shape and meaning to everybody differently, depending on where they came from, what they're going through in their life, etc. That's all going to vary. Trust me when I tell you. But anyway, great movie. Yep. So what else we got here? Yeah, Jack Black is good in the movie. Never was a huge Jack Black fan. I actually like Nacho Libre. Nacho Libre was fucking funny to me. I know it was kind of goofy, stupid movie, but that shit had me cracking up, man. Nacho Libre. I actually had that on DVD. Never was a huge fan. Nacho Libre, I like this one. I like. I know he tried to play some serious roles, but I don't know. Every time you look at him, it's like I love Will Smith, but every time I look at Will Smith, it don't matter how old he gets or what movie, I just see the Fresh Prince. I don't know why. all I see is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's hard for me to take them serious. And that was one of my favorite shows when it was on the air. And one thing I watch over and over, and my wife is always cracking on me about it, Wayne's Brothers. Like, as soon as I get off here, I watch that like every fucking day. I know every episode. Probably can recite word verbatim each episode. 3 favorite shows: Wayne's Brothers, Jamie Foxx Show, The Show. Could watch that all night. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it. It reminds me of people I grew up with. I can just connect to that energy. But every time I see Will Smith in any movie, I just see the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I don't know why. I just can't take him serious. I don't know why. All right. Yeah, Gilberto, the sigil. I talked a little bit about that last week, the origin. When you look at the origin, I was talking about last week, if you look at the sigil of Santa Muerte, and you guys can Google it and pull it up, it almost looks very similar to the Veve of Papa Legba, or the sigil of Papa Legba. It has its its origins and its roots in African spirituality and Afro-Caribbean magic. That's why I was going through all of that last week, the connection of the indigenous Aztec Mayan roots and the connection with it in Africa and how it came into modern day times. Now, there's many different theories on this and research. Again, a lot of the books that I threw out there, you can see the research that they've done and explain their origins of it. From my experience, when I look at it, I would definitely have to say it has its roots and origins in ancient Africa. Because when you look at the symbol, outside of the center of the sigil, you'll see the 4 points with the arrows, just like Papa Legba. You'll see her skith on the right, just like Papa Legba has the cane on the right. I mean, it's strikingly similar because when you look at it, it represents, again, crossroad deity, opening paths, roadways, the north, south, east, west. And remember that the Holy Death can be used as a road opening deity. Go back to many of the videos I've done in the last several years. Anytime working with clearing blockages or working with a road opener archetype, you always hear me mention her. And I've used her in that aspect for many things, be it professionally, you can getting a job or / promotion, for business, commerce, finances, clients, or even removing blockages that might be in your life. If you're trying to remove a bad habit, or you're trying to remove a troublesome person that could be blocking your path, or troublesome thing, anything that deals with clearing roads, because the sigil is, again, it's calling the powers from the 4 corners. It can be used. I can only tell you how I work with it. You can use it in a multitude of ways because it's dealing with opening the gates. And that's what Papa Legba's symbol represents. Opening and activating the gates. Because remember, in that system, you propagate or you invoke Papa Legba first and ask him to open the gates so the Loa can come through, right? Well, you can I'm just using that example. You can use that sigil in your work with the Holy Death to open those pathways and roadways. Use her to invoke. So in my research experience and how I use it, I see its origins and essence comes from ancient African spiritual traditions, just like most other things you're going to see, including vampirism. And I've been saying that for a while now. And you can use her sigil just like you would a Veve. You'll see some people will draw it on the altar, on the floor, if they're working a ritual. You can see, just like with Papa Legba, you can do things over it. You could place, some like to place offerings on the Veve or the sigil that are affiliated with the archetype. I'm just giving you an example. You can use that in a similar way. Obviously, you can get as creative as you want. You could add, subtract. Remember, it's always about you, one, being in control and doing what feels right for you. So, you might do some things that the traditionalists might say, oh, no, I wouldn't do that or this, that. If they're saying that because they got caught up in tradition, I just tend to ignore that. And again, if you're getting results, that's the only confirmation you need. But in short, I would definitely, from my research and what I know, it definitely has its origins in ancient Africa, for sure. No doubt. Sister Yvette, is evoking deity something that you would suggest, or would invoking be better? Yes. Let's understand the difference between evoking and invoking. Now, there's different theories on this. Some people say evoking is disrespectful. I disagree with that. Invoking is activating the energy of that archetype, deity, spirit. When you're evoking, right? And my how I perceive it from my experience is you're trying to embody what that deity represents. Now, evoking is used for an example in chaos magic, because chaos magic, one aspect of chaos magic focuses on you becoming that deity, literally. Now, for an example, Peter Carroll, Liber No, if you've ever read that book, he talks about some aspects of evoking where, if let's just say you're invoking Tahuti, or he goes to the point where the individual would actually dress up, wear the implements, the symbols, any implements that's affiliated with that deity, because they want to connect so strongly with the energy that not just to invoke it, but they want to embody. Now, some will also connect and relate that even further to what we call being mounted by a spirit or energy or possession, which I hate to use that word because it ties into a lot of religious dogma and ideology that becomes spooky because people hear the word possession. Again, not us per se that are on the path, but those that are not on the path hear that word and then they're possession, the devil, Satan, and they get into all that religious jargon that's a waste of time and energy. So it's not a matter of which one is better. It's a matter of which one is suitable for what you're trying to accomplish in the work that you're trying to do. So depending on what's trying to be accomplished, there's going to be some situations and scenarios where evoking is better. Like, for an example, at a Benbe, in a lot of African spiritual traditions, a Voodoo ritual, you want to evoke and become and let that energy manifest you, because once the spirit mounts you, you become that spirit. You're connected. You're one. So that would be, proper for that type of working. In a lot of the group and ceremonial work that we do, per se here, that don't involve that, we do a lot of the invoking. Like the ritual we did this past weekend was using the invoking, performative utterance, and invocations. And it's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked that question. And people that are practicing magic and on this path should understand the two. To me, they're both necessary. It's just a matter of knowing, one, what type of work am I setting out to do? What am I trying to accomplish? Then that would help determine what methodology you can use. So again, it's not so much which one is better, it's which one is proper for the work or the ritual you get ready to carry out. All right, so hopefully that helps you. This is a very good question by Gilberto. What are your feelings about two people using the same altar? My girlfriend and I are planning an altar in a spare room and wondered if it would be a problem. Let me just make this clear. If you're working with different archetypes, spirits, no problem if you're on the same page. Now, I wouldn't suggest you have the same, obviously, and I know you probably didn't mean it in that, but I just want to cover that. Definitely, ancestral altars, you should have two separate ones, because you're working with things that are connected to you by blood, and you don't want to incur the wrath or incorrect energy. So bloodline ancestral altars should always be kept separate, because you're dealing with your personal bloodline. Now, if you're setting up an altar to a specific pantheon and you're both working with it together, many people do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Where it gets tricky, certain spirits per se, like the Holy Death. Now, if you are both in unison, making a pact, let's say, with the Holy Death and working with it, the same aspects, that's fine. But I'd recommend that's probably something I might want to separate too. I would just say use proper judgment. It just depends on, one, what type of spirit and energies you're working with. You're going to find, and what I mean by that is this, so let me clarify. You're going to find on your path, as you start to open up your communication and awareness to the spirit, and as the spirit communicates to you, for an example, ancestral spirit guides, they might want their own space. So I would just say, kind of as you go, make sure you're open to the communication, because remember, the spirit is always going to dictate what it wants and does not want. So there's no telltale, quote unquote, blueprint or roadmap, for that situation per se. But if you're receiving communication where certain things need to be separate, you need to do that, be advised. But I know people or couples that have done it, been successful and had great results. There might have been some things down the road they had to separate because they started tapping into certain spirits, ancestral spirit guides, and other things, and started getting other communications. So as long as you're going by that, you're kind of just going with the flow. Yeah, nothing wrong, but definitely have separate ancestral altars. That's a must. All right. So hopefully that helps you. Yeah. Mama Muerte is Mandy typed in. Mama Brigette is everywhere. And even in that movie, the guy's wife, she's wearing that dark, purplish, black looking. She's definitely, there are definitely so many representations of her with Mama Brigette. And one thing I wanted to talk about in the movie, the specters, I mentioned it earlier in the video. You see, again, the boy thinks you kind of can sense it as you're watching the movie, but they're trying to show you, the viewer, how the boy thinks he's been talking to his mother this whole time, but it wasn't. It was her. It was this guy's wife, this witch. And she had the ability to appear, and they show you how they both can shapeshift and change their appearances. It's crazy. The neighbor, she was the neighbor across the street too. So they show you how they have the ability to make themselves seen to an individual based on what they want to see. In this case with the little boy, because she knew he was emotionally devastated by the loss of his mother. Remember, at your emotional low, a lot of these specter spirits can come in and create that deception. And because you're at an emotional low, or they say your countenance is low. Remember, when your countenance is low, you're always giving off, your aura is always giving off a certain color and vibration. And remember, these spirits, because they detect it by way of the light and the energy that you're giving off. So if they see a dark grayish, murky brown color, they know your countenance is low, and they know it's like a landing strip. Look at it like a plane lands. It sees the light. They know now is the time to enter the crown chakra. And how they're able to read and scan, quote unquote, your mind, they can enter through the crown and feel and see what you're thinking. And therefore create the illusion, because you're in such an emotional state or in a low state. That's the time. It's when you're not in control of your emotions. That's the time things kind of can run amok, or you can be deceived. Okay. And I've said that, been saying that for years. Understand the spirit and how it works. Understand the position you need to be in to receive the spirit, and the position you want to keep yourself out of so you're not deceived by the spirit. They show you that in the movie. They show you how the specters can come. They show you how they can feed off your emotions. And what have you heard me say for years now? With all the stuff that goes on in the media, if I can control your emotions, I can control you and what I want you to do. It's that simple. That applies to life in general. But yeah. Yeah, that statue was pretty much off the chain in that movie. Yeah, when they talk about the iron, there's just so, I didn't cover all of it. I just went through it quick. There's so much stuff in there. I'm going to probably go back and watch it again. There's so much stuff in there, man. Like I said, it's one of them movies you can't walk away from the TV. You can't be back and forth. You got to be sitting there zoned in. You got to just be sitting down, focused on it. It's that type of movie. All right. What else we got here? Okay, so Gilberto typed in, to add to my last, because I'd have to keep the security close because of my pets and children. I heard she would being closed in and feeling isolated thoughts. Are you referring to the Holy Death? I would assume. Again, if I would go with your intuition, my thing is I haven't really heard the aspect of being when you say enclosed. I don't know if you mean smothered or no space. Like for an example, I have devoted my whole one of my garages that connects to the outer portion of my house. Now, it's my Holy Death has her own space. It's with other stuff, but she has her own space. Now, as far as being isolated, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really heard too much of that. I know the main thing is if she feels smothered, and that's why they say she shouldn't share her space. If you feel like, and I've noticed that when people set up altars for the Holy Death, again, as I said a minute ago, go by your intuition and your communication. If you're getting that communication and you're getting that feeling, say you set it up and that happens, then I would make the adjustment or the change. Now, I don't know. I haven't really heard people say there was issues with that. And again, I guess it depends on your definition of being closed in and isolated. I don't know if you mean like, even though it's a separate space, like, smothered and not much room, or do you just mean isolated where, I'll see if you type something further down, isolated where it's nowhere near you and I can only again speak what works for me, where I have my Holy Death and communicate with it. Because at first I wanted to see and test it. I did have it mixed in with other things at first. I was with similar currents. I wanted to see, and this was a couple years ago. I wanted to see, but then I realized the mind, while walking out, I would just feel it, right? And then I started getting tremendous migraine headaches. And sometimes when there's a disruption with the energy and how it relates or how it correlates and connects with you and the effects, it could be shit like that, migraine headaches, not feeling right all the time, or some disorientation or feeling tired or sleepy. Trust me, that shit will happen. I'm using that to say, in connection to your question, I would go with you again. Trust your intuition and spirits. Now, if you're feeling like that, then don't, leave it isolated. Now, as far as pets, me personally, I'm not a pet person. I don't really like having pets in the house for stuff like that. I would definitely recommend, you try to definitely keep your pets. I mean, children are children. Remember, the spirits love children more than they love us. I wouldn't worry about if the children go in there. You do your best to control it where they're not going in there tearing shit up. But I mean, the pets, you got to be careful. You don't want a cat going in there pissing on something or something like that. That can be a problem. That to me is definitely disrespectful. Personally to me, not for no religious reason. That would just piss me off. And therefore, that's why I don't have cats or dogs or any of that shit. Not that I don't. I used to have cats. I just don't want to bother with that shit. So that's my thoughts on that. Maybe, it just, depends. I would just go with that communication you get when you set it up. All right. What else we got? Peace to Brother Wacky J. Thanks for the $2 donation. Yeah, and again, I don't ever ask for it. I do appreciate those that donate. If you see at the bottom of the chat, you see the dollar sign. You can, donate to the cause, $1, $2, whatever. It don't matter. So I appreciate the donation, brother. Yeah, and Mandy's mentioning Azazel, right? Which Azazel means the one removed, right? That's the Hebrew word for remove. And remember, they're giving you different, when you hear Azazel, you hear Lucifer, remember, Satan, these are archetypes of the same energy. One means the adversary, one means the one removed. Why was Azazel called the one removed? Because he was, quote unquote, removed from heaven. So his archetype changed from Lucifer, son of the morning, and then when he was removed, he took on the attribute of Azazel. Remember, that Luciferian story represents you. That's when you really woke up, when you were cast out, right? When you became the son of the morning star, right? Or the light bearer, you now were awake. That story represents you raising up from your state of sleep and slumber and coming into the realization of who and what you are. That's what that story really represents. Fuck the religious breakdown they give you. Oh, you're so disobedient. and he wasn't obeying, and he was cast out of heaven. They make it sound so fairy tale-ish and spooky that you start to get caught up in the dramatic and the emotionness of it. You understand? So, yeah. But yeah, in the movie House with the Clock in the Walls, they give you some, throw some little jewels in there about Azazel, because that's the energy he's trying to activate with this whole lunar eclipse and tap back into. And it's funny, what I found interesting, how they were connecting Azazel with the necromancy and the current of working with the energy of the dead. That was very interesting to me, but it made sense because in essence, right, the dead, what we know as the dead, and I've said this before, are really the living, because they're in a state of immortality. See, we hear the word dead, and sometimes we think of physical, kaput, finished, like you're just useless. That's not what it means. And that's not what the breakdown is working with this path in this particular system. So it made sense as I put it in perspective. I said, wow, that's pretty unique. But here's the thing you always got to think of. And I got to really go back. I didn't pay attention to the credits. Who wrote the movie? Because you got to understand the writers and the producers, where they getting this shit from? They're getting it from somewhere. Either they're studying this shit, they know it. They're not just making this shit up out of nowhere. You understand? And people don't realize that when you watch the movies. Who came up with this shit? And where'd they get it from? But the ignorant that are asleep just think it's entertainment. They don't know no better. All right. Brother Gene Butler, what's going on, bro? Long time. I hadn't seen you in a minute, man. Hope everything's good with you, brother. Good to see you here. All right. Okay, so Days Rod, she threw in there, and that's another good suggestion. In reference to your question just a minute ago, Gilberto, she says, no, Santissima does not like being enclosed, and that, yeah, so whatever your intuition is telling you. Now, again, if you meant enclosed, like smothered, I definitely wouldn't recommend that. That's why I was saying that a few minutes ago. I mean, have her space, have her open. That's how I have it. I mean, I have it in my section, for that. She's definitely not smothered and enclosed. I wouldn't recommend putting her in some small little space like a closet. Now, again, I understand some people's living situations vary, and they may not be in a situation where they can have everything out in the open and exposed. So I do get that, but I would never keep her in some little tight, crammed nook and cranny where she doesn't have, that space. So, all right. Oh, train of heart. Okay. Headed back to Kansas City. I'm sure that was at 8 o'clock. You typed that in an hour ago. Have a safe trip. All right. All right. What else we got? Sister Oni, peace. All right. Yeah, and this is true. Sister Mandy typed in extremely jealousy, a grandmother-like energy in reference to the Holy Death. Love her. She's done so much for my family. No joke. She brought, brought Holy Death brought Mandy to me. Yes, I do acknowledge that. I can tell you this with the Holy Death without getting into depth. Financially, that was my push. If you know what you're doing and working it right, I'm gonna tell you, you definitely. I mean, really, when you understand the Black aspect of it, and I do work a bit with the seven code aspect in connection with the seven African powers, and working with them as gatekeepers through the voodoo or voodoo spiritual system is very powerful. As I said before, the energy is raw, it's very aggressive, which that's the shit I like. I don't like any laid back, soft, fluffy shit. It's just me. But the change is very abrupt and quick. And I likened it last week. I mentioned briefly, it's kind of like Kali. When you're tapped in and working with that vampire dark goddess aspect of Kali, because that's what Kali means, the Black Mother. Remember, Kali is the original Black Mother goddess, right? When you're working with that same thing, Kali brings that tumultuous, quick change. And again, when I say tumultuous and quick, I'm saying sometimes people are bringing about that change, but sometimes they're not prepared for it. What do I mean by that? I mean, it brings the change that you need. And sometimes the change that you need may not line up with the change that you want. So understand the difference when you're working with these spirits and energies, the difference between wants and needs, right? Needs are something that's necessary, right? A want may not be necessary. And you're going to find out working this path. Sometimes you get the needs more, you will. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have personal wants and things you desire, but sometimes the needs have to be addressed before the wants can manifest. Hopefully that makes sense and people caught that. That's what I mean when I say do your due diligence. That's what I mean when I say be prepared for the energy and what's coming. Because if you just think that it's just going to be a walk in the park, remember, this path is about work. You ain't never heard me promote this shit as a snap your fingers fix all, because that's a bunch of bullshit. This path is work, but the beauty of it is you're the one that's manifesting the work. Nobody's doing it for you. Nobody's controlling it. Nobody's telling you what you can and cannot do, the do's and the don'ts. You can't do this, you should do that, shouldn't do this, blah, 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 blah. It's all bullshit. That's the beauty. So it's work, okay? But she definitely is one thing I can attest to, it's a very demanding and controlling type of energy and spirit. It can be very, it's a protective demanding. But like I say, if you're making them pacts and you're doing that work, carry out your work. Don't be fucking around with it. Don't be half stepping, as we used to say back in the days, because you find yourself half stepping, you're gonna get stomped. Trust me when I tell you that. And again, you know me, I'm gonna do my due diligence and give you the both side. Not gonna tell you all this stuff to try to scare and frighten people. We're all grown fucking adults. I don't need to scare grown ass people. I'm just telling you the reality and what it is. One, again, you know me, I couldn't give a fuck what you do or do not do. And I don't say that to be disrespectful, because I say that it's not going to change what I got to do. I don't worry about what somebody is or is not doing. That shit is irrelevant to me. I've learned that years ago, because that distracts you from what you need to do. It takes your focus and your energy out of sync, and then it stops you from getting results. I stopped that long time ago. So I'm not concerned what people are and are not doing. That shit is irrelevant. All right. So what else we got? Oni says, I've been working with my black Santissima Muerte, the black candle I have on the altar right now, as big as, yeah. And now I'm doing the working right now, which I have it over there. I actually have a red Santa Muerte candle. I'm getting ready to do something with working with that aspect. With my black one, though, there's a connection with that. Most of the time, I'm strictly just burning solid black candles with her image on it. Now, I'm getting ready to do some work with the solid red candle. Now, remember, on this path, dealing with, black magic, remember the two, and even when you see me post the clips, the little couple minute clips of the rituals, you always see the red and black theme on the altar cloth, because remember, red and black represent two key elements. Red represents passion, fire, desire, fueling the intent. Black represents unlimited potential, no limitations, no boundaries. That's why they're occult colors. Look at the color, for an example, on the Eleques of Elegua or Papa Legba. Red and black are the colors. There's a reason for that. There's a symbolism and a representation behind them colors. In the occult, black magic, the dark arts, you'll see black and red are strong themed colors used throughout ritualistic work because of what they represent. So I'm getting ready to do a working with that, which I'm going to correlate, because I have a smaller image. I have a big, you guys have seen it. I've shown it in some videos. I have a bigger statue of the Holy Death, and I have a small one of the 7-colored aspect that I work with. So yeah, it's just how you connect it and work with it. But as I said before, if you really understand and work with it, you can use the black aspect for anything. All right. Yeah, Oni types in, I've been getting a lot of energy of appreciation from her lately. You don't know how lucky you are with the shit you have. True indeed. And that's another aspect you have to understand of the Holy Death that I've found similar in some ways to Cali. She gonna put shit plain to the point, make you see things for what it is, and also put you in check about some things about yourself. Remember, this path is about, when I say bringing the change, you're gonna find out, you're gonna start to pull some shit up, that you might been avoiding dealing or haven't addressed. And some of it can be, in that pain, there's growth. And in some of that struggle, there's your greatest growth. And all these energies, when you hear me talking about regeneration, renewal, and change, that's confirmation you're locked in and working with the death current, necromancy, whatever you want to call it. When you're getting that growth, you're getting that change, you go through the pain. And when I say pain and suffering, I'm not talking just about physical. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those mental and emotional, changes and transformations, because some of that stuff is you got to deal with it head on, and not all of it is pleasant, right? Holy death will bring that to the surface and make you question a lot of shit. You understand? Because remember, when you're working with, again, especially the black aspect, when you're working with it as a communicator with the dead, and you're working it as a road opener / gatekeeper, meaning having the keys to open the gates to this high level of spirituality, man, be ready. That's all I can say. 2 words: be ready. I can, obviously at this stage, and I'm sure there's many others in the same boat as me, I can go into this head on with no reservations, no doubts, 100% certainty. Bring it to me, please. Because this is what I've been working for, what I've been working towards on a multitude of levels. So that's why I was saying earlier in the video, when you're going into this work, if you got too many doubts, questioning yourself, not sure, there's your answer. But when you're going into this 100% confident, you ain't questioning shit, you're ready, you're 100% certain and you're confident, bam, there's your answer. That's what I mean when I say start trusting the messages and intuitions you get. Stop, don't say, look, man, let me say this, man. When some people ask you a question, should I or should I not do this? They already know what the fuck they want to do before they even ask it. I find this always humorous. They just need somebody to validate the answer, the preconceived answer they already have in their head, just so that makes them feel better about whatever they're getting ready to do or not to do. I find that very funny, but it's something that happens all the time. Okay? Trust your messages. Okay. Yes. Tequila is one offering. I see only typed in. That's one thing you could put for that spirit. All right. So, wow, it's a long name. Hopefully I ain't butchering it. Jehan Costanza. I'll just refer to you as Constanza. Ilas Raul. All right, so let me start joking around. My relationship of La Santísima is as La Madrina. She comes to me like that. Yeah, and it is a very motherly spirit, motherly energy, no doubt. I've learned to never double guess her and trust her guidance. She never failed me. She is my Madrina. I love her. And I was talking a little bit about something similar connected to that last week. Now, why you have to be careful with working with those energies, because of that, when you make that connection with her, that motherly like energy, that protection, she is not concerned if you're in the right or the wrong. And that could be a good thing and a bad thing, because if you carry that out with certain works, you got to be prepared to deal with that type of energy and what can come with it. And that's the power of a mother, a madrina or a motherly love, is because a mother is going to always stick and stand by her child, regardless if they're right or wrong. I hope people caught that, what I just said. You can petition it for destructive purposes. It's one of the few energies that really couldn't care if you're in the right or the wrong. But you need to be prepared to accept the responsibility that comes along with that. So there's good aspects to that and bad aspects, but you, as the god or goddess in control, need to be conscious and facilitate and be aware of how you're going to utilize that power and energy. So be very conscious of that. All right, Wacky J says he's headed home to light his holy death candle. Cool. Okay. Jean Costanza says, many folks use Santissima as a bargaining shopkeeper. Big mistake. Yeah, you can't. I wouldn't bargain with that type of energy. You want to be straight to the point. That won't work. You got to be crystal clear, and you will get what you want, but be clear. And again, that's not a game you want to play with. Not just that with her. There's a lot of spirits that you can't play that game with, because if you're coming deceptive and you're trying to play the bargaining, that can backfire in a great way. You got to be careful with that. And again, this all goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video. Do your due diligence. This is all part of the process that I'm talking about earlier, being aware. This is the awareness. So when you have all this knowledge and information that you guys are all typing in, that we're all exchanging and sharing, these are the tools you need before you go to work. Because now you know you have that's what knowledge means, to know, right? Or as the 5% nation say, know the ledge, right? I don't need a little 5% breakdown from back in the day. But you know now, and with that knowledge comes awareness. So this is the education and awareness that I would expect everybody does, because it's going to assist you moving forward and doing your work. Because now there's a lot of good information that everybody is sharing with this now. And it's what I like about it is we're seeing many different people that work with the Holy Death in some shape, form, or fashion, and they're sharing their experiences, because it confirms what I was saying earlier. Not everybody's going to connect or work with it the same way. So anybody that sits you down and says, this is the particular way you should do it and the only way, that's religion. That's all bullshit. And this confirms what I'm saying. All right. Mandy types in the rainbow, also known as the 7 African powers. 1 was my first and still my favorite and personal go-to. Yeah. Now, again, as I said earlier, if you came in later, in some circles, practitioners that work with the Holy Death, be it high priests, priestesses, or just people that have been doing work with her for a long time, and that comes from African systems of spirituality. That's the origin of that, where they say that the 7 aspect of the Holy Death, the only space she will share with anybody are the 7 African powers. And they say, and again, this is just some of the origins and what they say and the work that they've done. They say because the 7 aspect or 7 rainbow colored aspect of the Holy Death has her connection with the 7 African powers as gatekeepers, road openers that work with the dead, each one. And that's how I work with it in voodoo, right? So yes, there is a connection. Moon is in Scorpio right now. Scorpio is not a good energy to do work and get results. What's up, buddy? Let's go to bed? Hey, come over. Come on. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with candle magic. If Scorpio is a very conflicting energy, not a great sign for tremendous change. Even as I mentioned before, that couple with Jupiter influence is really chaotic. I won't fuck with that for results. Good time to do work for peace, healing, tranquility, stuff in the home, personal connections with individuals. Scorpio can be a very chaotic energy. Now, I've talked about a lot of that stuff. I think I did a video on that a little while back. Your planning and your timing. I like the fact that when I'm planning and timing something, because those energies do affect your work. Okay. All right. So what else we got here? Belizan, Bad, and Ruha, learning more about her prior to working more with her. Have burned candles in the past, wanting to get deep. Okay, cool. Again, trust that, communication and that intuition. Dark Dragon, 1988. Dark Dragon. What is the water for on the Santa Muerte altar? I was told it's to absorb negative energy. Could you elaborate? Yeah, well, you'll see in a lot of those spiritual systems, the water represents life. It's not just the aspect it is. There's a part of that it connects the spirit from their realm to this word, because water represents life. You'll also see that on ancestral altars, as spiritism, people that work that path. You also see it in Ifa, a lot of spiritual traditions. Water is the simplest form of respect or offering you can give to any of these spirits. Yes, like on a Boveda, for an example, what they call Boveda ancestral worship or spiritual systems, they do put, and that's why they say you should change the water every several days, because yes, the water does absorb that energy, or any negative energy that might be around you, the practitioner. So therefore, you should change the energy. It represents that, and it also represents the life element. Just like when you have an ancestral altar, the four elements always need to be on that altar: earth, wind, air, fire. Well, five elements: earth, wind, air, fire, and water. Um, for that altar to be functioning and working in its full capacity, the elements need to be represented, and because all that comprises, which connects you uh, as the link to all of that. So yes, there is truth to that aspect about it absorbing negative energy, but there's also other aspects of the water, and you'll see it used in a lot of rituals. Like for an example, uh, again, it's one of the most respectful and powerful gestures you can make to yourself in your connection to the spirit. You'll see in some systems where they just take some fresh water or sea salt and water, and they might sprinkle a few drops in front of the archetype. You'll see sometimes altars sprinkled with it, etc. There's many different meanings and usages and methods that are applied with water, but water is probably one of the most utilized aspect as a connection. And again, I also look not just as a physical offering, like your offerings. I also look at it as a link and connection between you and that particular spirit. Like for an example, in front of my Papa Legba, I keep a fresh bowl of water in front of Papa Legba because that's one of the most simplest offerings that he likes. I'll keep one goblet or glass on my ancestral altar, on my black magic altar. And again, to me, in the black magic altar, water represents the life, the fluidity, the change. And I connect that to all the work I do. I even keep, a goblet on my black magic altar. Is it mandatory? No. But a lot of that, again, comes from people that have put these practices, customs, and some might call them traditions. But again, you do what you see fit. Don't get caught up in any religious dogma or restriction where it's mandatory. But it has been proven throughout, again, documented results and histories. It's been a very simple, effective method used in many different systems. So yes, there is truth to that. Only types of Mama Brigade colors are black, white, and purple. Yes. We did a ritual for the Barons, and I remember we had something on it. That was back in last year. It might have been early. Was it early this year? Either the end of last year, early this year. Yes, when you're doing work with Baron Samdi, Mama Brigade, purple and black, very effective. White can be used too. But it's that dark and that very dark purplish black purple. It's got the purple overtone. Those candles, they have them. I mean, I'm fortunate because of the store I have near me. Not an easy candle to find. I mean, you can get them online and shit, but it's not an easy candle really to find out and about unless you have a good occult store or a botanica near you. They usually stock them because of the energy that those amber. That's a very quick acting energy, especially when you're working candle magic. Using the amber it's something that people will use in candle magic to obtain a quick result. It's a very intense energy. It's almost likened to black, but if you understand and know what I'm talking about that dark, it's like a blackish purple. Like it's the best way I can describe it. But I found with my mom Brigette and the Baron, purple is very effective. Very. We even had those colors on the altar, very effective. All right. All right. Yes, and this is good advice from Jehan Costanza. For those who are new, please treat her with respect like you would to your elders, with the honesty, love, and purity. You get back what you give her plus more. Trust me. And I agree. And you should always approach everything. You should always have the right intent. I always say similar things. You look. I have the utmost when you're working with a lot of these spirits, especially Dawn, the Aloha. I mean, spirits of the dead, the holy deaths. Man, you definitely better approach it with sincerity, honesty, and respect, because you're, again, look at you're activating and contacting energies that I wouldn't recommend playing with, and you don't want them to run amok. And they usually run amok when you're not approaching it correctly. You're not doing the right things. You've probably seen in many different circles and places, many different spiritualists, hogans, and bokors, and high priests and high priestesses, say these things. Treat it with respect. They're all in agreement with that. They're saying that because when it does run amok and you don't have control over the energy, then it could be something you probably might regret. So most definitely, that's good advice. Yes, and I guess this might have been something to what I was saying earlier. If you are not focused, or you're focused on other people's bullshit, you're going to learn on this path, and I learn. When you're young and dumb, back then, and I say back then, not that I'm super old, but I'm not young. I mean, I'm 47. But when I go back into my teens, and I started out on this path. I'm not saying exactly where I'm at now, but on this path to consciousness, etc. I probably started in my junior year in high school. I probably really started exploring the occult, Egyptology, higher levels of consciousness and awareness. I would say going into my junior year in high school, which was probably around 87, 88. And when I look back and reflect on it, back then when you're trying to save the world, a little something, you get involved in other people's shit. As you get older, it's one good thing if you're really on the path to awareness. You get older, I don't care to be bothered with other people's bullshit. I couldn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? As long as you ain't coming to me with no nonsense, you ain't in my lane, messing with my shit, and I respect what you do. And I'm, again, like I said earlier, just not too long ago, I ain't concerned with other people doing and not doing. That shit is irrelevant to me. Because if I got the time and energy to spend worrying about what everybody else is doing, I can utilize that same time and energy to work on myself. So all I realize is when you get caught up in that nonsense, it's distracting you from what you need to do, from the personal work you need to do for yourself. And it's taking that precious time and energy away from you having that time to make yourself better, to get results, to bring the change you're looking for in your life. But some people are so caught up in gossip and slander and being in other people's business. It's like a disease, it becomes a sickness, To me, that's all high school shit. And I think grown adults, especially, if you're in the stages of past your, 30s, if you haven't outgrown that now, something wrong with you. But it's a good point, Sister Holly. Good point. All right. Now, only I can't, as far as your Ogun candle, requesting a red candle anointed with hot sauce and black pepper. I don't know. I mean, I remember it. Let me say this: on the red candle, Ogun wars with that Shango energy. I would really look into that. Why you got that communication? I don't know if I burn, that red for Ogun. Again, I got to speak with my aspect that I work with, because on my path, Ogun is the one that rules my head, and I know Ogun well. And in Palo, Salabanda, I can only speak on my aspect. Now, there's many different ways to work with Ogun. I don't know, and I can't judge you or fault you on your connection and how you work with that spirit, just like somebody else. So, and then you're talking about, that's a fiery spirit as it is. And you're talking about, now, if you got that communication and your Ogun made that clear to you, again, like I said earlier, trust your communication. I can only compare it and correlate it to my experience, because, again, in that, when I'm working that spiritual system and my experience and background and what I've been initiated in that, Ogun rules my head. So I think like Ogun. You understand what I'm saying? And Ogun and anything affiliated with Shango in my path that I work with Ogun does not vibe well. That's just me. I can sense that energy. I can sense the Shango, and just talking about it, I can feel it boiling up in me as I talk about it. I mean, I can feel it all shooting up here, coming up into my shoulders, and that's why I cover my eye. It was rushing to my head. So I can only speak on my experience with it, but I don't know exactly. I would have to sit down. I mean, I know we sat down when I was there, but I would have to sit down and really look at your Ogun and be able to feel the energy, what's coming from it, and the communication that I would feel and get from it. But having said that, what your connection is and how you work with it, if that's the communication you got, and then that's what it is. I don't know if that helps you or not, but that's the best thing I could tell you on that. All right. Yeah, and that's another good point that Mandy's pointed out. Again, there's many other things about the movie I didn't point out. Go watch it. She points that out, that Azazel in the movie, The House with the Clock in the Walls, was invoked from the pain the war caused Isaac, the evil sorceress, when he left for war. And that's the guy who used to own the house that Jack Black was living in. There's so many different things in there. Again, and we could be here talking about it for hours. Definitely go check it out. All right. All those things skipped on me. I'm scrolling down, people. I'm going to try to get to all your questions to the best of my ability. That's why I don't read from the books anymore. It takes up too much time. As I said, if you go back to my earlier videos, the first couple of years, I didn't really use any books. So I might just scan something out of the book real quick to point something out, but I ain't going to be reading from books no more, man. To me, it just becomes a little redundant. All right, hold on. All right, this is where I left off. So Love My Fro says she saw the movie, loved it, cool. All right, what else we got? Victor Perry. Some time ago, a reliable reading confirmed that I began my first life as a Zulu Sangama. Imagine my surprise when I found out the blood type. My blood type was a negative. Well, when you say, I don't know what you say, what negative, O negative or what. Now, understand this. All right, your blood type does tell a lot about you, but remember, you have DNA running through your veins from a paternal and a maternal. So I wouldn't be surprised by that, because you have, obviously, if that comes through, it came through for a reason. I wouldn't too much, not saying that you're using that criteria to invalidate or validate it, but remember, you got, your maternal and paternal blood running through those veins. The blood type just helps you identify the characteristics and the nature and what's dominant in the DNA. Doesn't mean other things can't come through that might, quote unquote, not be the most dominant factor. Like for an example, I have O positive, but I understand some of the other aspects that come through when you trace the genetics and genes that may not be something that's a dominant characteristic trait or like from that genetic connection with O positive. So you got to be able to put all that into perspective. I wouldn't judge and base that criteria on that alone. Not saying that you are, but when you start to tap in, I wouldn't be surprised with anything. All right. Let My Fro says, I'm in traffic. Okay. I know that was earlier. I'm only at 8:20. Damn. All right. Okay, so there you go. All right, so Thor. If you're working with any, they call it Norse magic. If you're into any of that, connecting with some of the pantheon of the Norse gods, I understand this about your genetics and DNA. You could be dark-skinned African, right? And you might have likes. Like, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying that you could be Latino, whatever. And I'm not just saying this to you, Victor, but just because of what you read, but you're making something comes to mind. There's a connection there. If you feel the connection to working with Thor in some aspect, excuse me, there's a reason for that, because remember, we have multiple different personality traits that communicate through us via our DNA. Now, even if you're African American, we all, again, are byproducts of fourth generation, what I like to say, Melanites, Nubians, because a lot of us, our genetics have been mixed with a multitude of different things, which therefore confirms why we might have likes for certain cultures and foods and can't really explain it, or certain systems of spirituality. Look how many people that are African Americans or other cultures and ethnicity in this country and they had a love for Asian martial arts culture. I know I didn't, and I found out when I did my my DNA search, I found out there was a lot of that in the blood that I was not aware of, that was connected to India and Asia. Therefore, a lot of us grew up like that, Latinos, blacks, all different ethnicities, and we loved martial arts culture. There's something that appealed to us. Well, when you get that feeling or that appeal, that's your spirit speaking to you. That's the confirmation confirmed. That's one of the personalities or the genetics via your genes and your DNA that's trying to manifest or come forward and send you a message. So, if you feel like, connecting with Thor, it's very simple. Just set up some type of sacred space with implements and imagery and things that are connected to Thor. And there's so many books out there on Norse magic where they have many different books with invocations to, again, access that archetype, work with that energy. It's very simple. You would just utilize or do it the way you would do in most systems of magic. But I know some people that, I've never really been a huge, I've read and studied about the Viking pantheon and the Norse gods. Very interesting, very similar to me, in my opinion. Egypt, they have a goddess of the underworld, very similar, like the Holy Death, the goddess of death. You'll see all these cultures, there's a synchronization, and they all seem to have pulled from each other in some shape, form, or fashion, depending on the timeline and when these cultures and civilizations came about. Now, we know obviously the Norse Viking culture came way after a lot of these African spiritual systems, but you will see some concepts taken from Egypt and Africa in their stories of their gods. And then obviously there's a connection there with some of the Greek gods, etc. Because of the connection at some point in history that they interacted with each other, or one came in connection with that culture and grafted it into their culture, but told the story based on their language and their culture. That's what people fail to understand sometimes. But yeah. All right. So what else we got? All right. Welcome, Ninth Disciple. It's okay if you had to get pics of your relatives or do your work. No need. That's cool. All right. Yeah, man, he types in much needed. I know. I already know tears. Yeah, well, I know last time you missed the drumming for the reasons we have mentioned, but yeah, hopefully this time a little bit different. Yeah, that's another good point in the movie that Mandy brings up. As the little boy, his nephew is growing, yeah, he starts to hit him off with these books because the kid realized that by nature he was a warlock, right? And a warlock is just the male aspect of a witch, right? You call the male is a warlock, the female is a witch. Jack Black was a practicing warlock in a movie, man. There's a lot of shit in there, man. Like I say, Mandy obviously is pointing some things out too. Brother Jack, aka Jay Jizzle. A lot of these movies drop signs. I know the Black Conscious Starter Kit was from what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, me and Jack got this joke. We were thinking about, it was a great business idea. I was thinking about starting coming up with a product called the Black Conscious Starter Kit. And what I was thinking was, everybody needs their dashiki, big ass ankh, an afro pick, some, big ass mood rings or some funky ass looking jewelry, some Jesus looking sandals, for the summertime, a head wrap, and selling it for a reasonable price. We were going to call it the Black Conscious Starter Kit. Get it for $29.99 plus tax and shipping. All right, stop. But yeah, we say that, we're just having fun joking around. Other people don't take that shit personal, but the reality is everything's become commercialized. Even that has now. And as I said before, right, I mentioned, if you go back to a video I did a couple of months ago when Colin Kaepernick got his commercial deal with Nike, I was laughing because it kills me how, just like with Black Panther and just like with Colin, it's funny how these conscious communities, it's like sometimes they're more programmed and stupid than sleeping ass religious people. And what I mean by that is, I love to have something. I'm not saying all. I'm talking about the ones that are not awake and think they're awake. What I mean by that simply is, it's funny how they just jump on a bandwagon. I saw that what really got under my skin. I forgot where I saw it. Someone on there. This one dude. He said, "Oh, because he support Nike now because they're supporting Kaepernick." And matter of fact, he was just about to get married, and everybody at his wedding was going to be wearing Nike sneakers. Oh, let me let me get myself together, because just the idiocy of that. I can't tell you how stupid that sounds to me. Number one, and number two, here's why. First and foremost, if you do the research on Nike, just go show me this asshole and these people that were saying this didn't do any research. First of all, Nike has been a staunch reporter of the Republican Party. Nike has donated millions of dollars to Donald Trump. Okay, Nike is a business; it's an entity. They don't give a fuck about black and white racism. They have an agenda. That agenda is to make money. I keep trying to tell people there's a new market out now, right? And a lot of these companies are now trying to market their product to the woke community / conscious community. So Nike is trying to expand their empire. They're not interested in just promoting to athletes and beboppers and hip hoppers and entertainers anymore. There's a whole nother market out there now. It's called the conscious community. So Nike didn't do that out of the goodness of their heart because they were down with the cause. Nike simply did that because it was an opportunity, and the jump in the stock confirmed that, right? People, saying Nike could self-suicide. They align themselves up with Kaepernick. They're going to lose tons of money. Well, go do your research. Their stock shot through the roof. You want to know why? Because sleeping conscious people who think they're awake don't get it. That's my whole point, okay? If you don't see that picture and you really think Nike did what they did because they sympathized with the cause, I don't even think they had empathy with the cause. They just saw dollar signs. Look, man, but you got to understand, in the real world, we just talking now in everyday life, real world. Let's leave the spirits conscious stuff alone for a minute. Even the black magic stuff alone for a minute. Because part of being on this path, practicing black magic, I said you start to look at things for what they are. Let's keep it 100. If you really believe Nike did that out of the goodness of their heart because they sympathize with the cause, you're pretty much dumber than I thought. It was a business decision. Dollar signs, that's all. All right. All right, what else we got? Only types and creating formulas are important. Excuse me, people. Apologize. Creating formulas are important, and following your intuition. Like today, I bought 3 apples for Shango feast day, and total 154. 6-7. I thought to pay 154 and didn't, and today it was 145. So you got 10, 10, 10. Okay, that's true. Sometimes that's where you get communications, as I said earlier. The spirit will communicate on a multitude of levels. You just got to look for it, see it. Double R, the movie with Jack Black, Clocking it's if you have, I've got apps on my Fire Stick, APKs, where you can live stream movies that are either out in the theaters or just left. I believe it kind of just faded out of the movie, so no, it is not yet available like on Redbox or Netflix. The only way you'll be able to see it if you have some type of live streaming movie website where you can get a live stream feed of it. Because I believe it came out a few months ago and it should have just left the theaters. If you Google it, it should show you the release date. But yeah, it should be coming out on probably available soon, but it's not available yet on any of them, to my knowledge. Yes, and Nacho Libre was a funny ass movie. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I love stupid comedy movies like that. Okay, Regina, the name of the movie is The House with the Clock in the Wall. Jack Black. And damn, I can never remember his co-star. She's a famous actor. Can't remember her name. So somebody might know, can type it in. But if you just Google it, it'll come right up. Yeah, Mandy says how, again, I'm kind of speed up and go through some of the comments for the sake of time so I can get to everybody's question, because I still see there's a lot more, which I'm glad to see people typing in questions. Yes, I know you've had, especially David, some definite intense experiences with the Holy Death. Yes, and again, pure. I use that term, and I know David's marked with the Holy Death. I know that for sure. And that's the key. Your intent. I can't stress enough. You hear me talk about it all the time. Can't stress enough. Your intent and how you fuel it tells, one, everything about you, and two, is going to really determine the results you're going to get from working with these energies, carrying out rituals, doing work. And again, we don't do this stuff just to be doing it. Remember, we do work because there's an intent behind it, because we're trying to achieve a desired result. That's what black magic is about. That's why, I can't stress enough. I love this path. I eat, live, breathe, eat shit, and sleep this. This is a way of life to me. This is not just I do this when it's convenient. It's not a trendy thing. I do it on the weekends. No. This starts from the moment I wake up, come out of my bed, to the moment I go back to sleep and do it all over again the next day. That's the difference between living a way of life or being, faking the funk, or being that, conscious person that goes to an event and plays African because it's an event. So they want to put on a dashiki and play African for Saturday for 4 or 5 hours and then go back to doing their scandalous shit, or like somebody that goes to church Sunday, ask for forgiveness, and then Monday to Saturday go back to doing the same old bullshit. That's not what we do. This is a way of life. There's a difference when you have a practicing way of life as opposed to quote unquote faking the funk. There's a difference. All right. And that's good input that Mandy was putting in about to the question earlier about when Gilberto had asked on working with or setting up the altar and working with that as a couple. And that's what I mean when I'm saying, as long as you're on the same page, you have similar motives. But I would also suggest, as I said earlier, if the spirit is starting to communicate things on an individual level, I wouldn't ignore them. But if things are working in conjunction and harmony and unison, that's one thing. But always be receptive to the communication. It's very important. Okay. Yes, and another very good point by Manny. Never let anybody that, outsider or other family, yes, don't, I wouldn't recommend that with anything that you've consecrated to work with yourself, because that'll disrupt the energy and the flow. That's very important. I'm very far and beyond few who I even let go in that chamber room that I have, that you've seen me here and there flash on the videos. I don't, if I invite you in there, it's because there's a reason. Because the spirit's telling me to bring you in there. But there's some people that I don't even, put it this way, I don't bring too many people to my front door, period. And there's a reason for that. So that's definitely true. All right, what else we got here? Kate Blanchett, thank you, man. Appreciate that, man. I don't know why I can't remember her name. She's a popular actor. She was very good in that movie, too. Like I said, it's a good movie. I'm definitely going to go back and rewatch it. I'm sure I'm going to pick up more things I didn't catch the first time. All right. Okay, Gilberto. Yeah, as long whether it's working, don't mean you have to do the work all the time, like you say, together as a couple. But yeah, if you both might want different things personally, but when it comes to family prosperity, you want the same thing. Again, trust your intuition. If you set it up and you're doing certain things and the energy ain't right, that would be your answer. Where you might have to separate things. Now, if you start carrying out the work and the results become abundant and great, then there's your answer. But again, test and trial, and see what happens. Personally, if it was me, every situation is unique. I don't know if I could share mine or work with. I just, because of I'm working with where I've made personal pacts. So it would be hard for me to even, do something like that. But that's just me. Again, it's not to tell all. Experience will be the answer to some of those questions for you, Brother Gilbert. All right. Okay. Double R says, "Oh, I guess that was my little guy." Saying, "Oh, he's so cute. Yeah, he's a good kid." Oh, okay. So like, again, depends on your setup. If you can have her out in the open, put her out in the open. Um, but it just depends on if you. I mean, if you have that ability where you don't have too many prying people come, and we have people that understand it. But one thing I can't stand, and I have space, a portion of my house set aside for all of the work that I do, because you just never know who could pop up. And again, I'm very limited on who comes here. But the last thing I want is anybody being disrespectful. I got to put them in their fucking place. So, um, and plus the shit I got would probably frighten some people that don't know anything about it. They'd probably fucking run out of here. I never, I'll never forget a story a few years back. It was in a different place when I used to keep a lot of my shit out and open. I didn't have the, private space where it's open, but it's private. I prefer to have my stuff in an open space like I do now, but private away from prying eyes. That's just me. But I remember thinking about it's making me laugh because I could see the two Jehovah's Witnesses' faces. You know that like when, a motherfucker knocks on the door and they realize when they came in that they made a mistake. Yeah, well that happened one time. I remember this when I had all my Palo stuff and my cauldrons out. They walked in and they was like, oh shit. They didn't say it, but you could see the look on their face and feel the energy. Like I could read their minds. They were like, oh shit, we fucked up. And they were trying so hard to find a way out. But that was back in my raw days where I used to look, I mean, literally, I was so fucking aggressive. I used to look for people to debate with, literally. I used to drive around looking for the Mormons, literally. Like those motherfuckers on the bikes, just because I wanted to fuck with them. That's the type of person I used to be. I see a Jehovah's Witness come to the door back in the day, come on in. That's just, when you're young and fiery, but now as you get old, you chop it. I can never forget the look on their face when they walked into my apartment that time. I'm going back a while. It's just like, oh, we fucked up. It's just like, we walked into something that we fucked up. And they realized, I could feel the energy and read them. They realized that not even their precious Jesus was going to save them from this one. And believe me, I'd be here all night talking about that experience. That hour that I kept them there probably felt like 10 hours to them. But anyway, just reminded me of a few things. Plata. I haven't heard that. Plata Silva. I used to sell Plata Silva in Manhattan. We used to have the Sterling 925, which is supposed to be the high quality sit-in. We used to call for short Plata, Mexican silver, right? Which was a cheaper version of silver. You had to polish it to keep it clean because it can turn quickly. I haven't heard that term in a while. Wow. That's a good question, Days Rod. Can that only be used for financial gain? It's geared towards that. Like I mentioned last week, there's a statue. You will also an image of the Holy Death. You will also see where she's got like different types of currencies pinned to her. There's a twofold way to look at this. That image or that aspect of the Holy Death is geared specifically to work with finances. Now, even though you have a symbol of her on something that's geared for finances, but remember, it's what the archetype itself represents in the image. So how you feel the intent, you can pretty much utilize it still as a vessel. In my experience, as you would any other image. That's why you hear me say you can use the black aspect for any aspect. Different aspects, like they're saying with the red, the black, and the white, can all be incorporated through that black energy because it absorbs all those powers and energies, right? That would be my advice on that. Now, other people might say otherwise, but they're probably coming from a more traditional sense. So I just think that's entirely up to you how you approach and use it. I wouldn't say you could use it just for finance. Probably would be the most effective because that's what it was geared for originally. But remember, it's the image and what it represents is the key. Yeah, and good. Yeah, it's good stuff though. Okay, I'm gonna skip the comments and see you guys talking about. space. Good feedback that I see Mandy and Gilberto exchanging. Yeah, and again, trust your intuition. That's what I mean when I say trust your message. I mean, literally, you might go starting to set up things and changes start to come to your mind. That's how you're communicating with the spirit. If you start doing things and say, wait a minute, and then some thoughts will change. You might find out you originally set out to do it this way, and then that might completely change as you're going through the process. Again, that's trusting the intuition, tapping into the spirit and the messages you get. Definitely. All right. Again, Oni says in reference to earlier about going with the red candle, the hot pepper. And so again, I mean, I can see the correlation of why you would use those fiery colors and what the hot pepper and sauce represents, working magic like that in connection to slanderous enemies. It would make sense. Again, I can't confirm without obviously looking upon it intently. I don't know your exact connection with the Ogun you work with and how, because everybody's different. But it sounds to me from your comments that you're pretty certain that that's the message and the communication you got. So I would say that would be the answer. I just know my Ogun. I don't know if, as I said earlier, but if you're getting that communication and it's strong and it's clear, there you go. That's your answer. Ninth disciple. I don't know why I'm sitting here crying for my ass. I haven't cried for them souls, especially since their funerals. It doesn't look. I told you guys last week about how out of nowhere, reference to my father, even though he passed away in January today, and what triggered it was they're playing a lot of Christmas songs on the radio right now. So I was scrolling through, and the workplace and song that came on. It's a song I know that he liked, Nat King Cole. I don't give a fuck. I like Christmas. I don't care what anybody says. Don't give me all that bullshit about, shouldn't be celebrating that, huh? I ain't into all the commercialized shit of it or the religious aspect of it. It's a magical energy. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. When you look at it the right way, forget all that. Oh, well, Santa Claus represents. I'm not into all that shit. If that's how you look at it, if you're gonna fucking protest elves and Santa, I'm past that stage. I look at the magical aspect of Christmas, like Disney World. So you gotta look, whether you like Walt Disney or not, he's a fucking genius. He created some shit a long time ago that people in the millions flock to today as we speak. People from all over the world traveling to see some motherfucking mouse and some fictitious characters because he created, you know what it is? He created the reality of his subjective realm. He manifested it on this planet. He brought it into the objective. It was such a powerful tool, right? All the conscious people will get into, oh yeah, that's all part of the mental. I get all that shit. But being awake and seeing that side of it that they're talking about, the fictitious side, I see my side. And that's the beauty of it. I see the magic in that shit. Some powerful ass shit. You understand? There's a magical energy to me. I couldn't give a fuck who agrees with it or not. There's a different energy to certain aspects of Christmas when you really look at it. So I'm saying that in relation to your question, not to get sidetracked. It don't matter if their funerals were yesterday, last year, 5 or 10 years ago. Sometimes when you feel that emotion, is again, you've tapped in. There's a communication there. You've tapped into the energy of those ancestral spirits. So the way that you express that could be through any form of emotion, laughing, crying, whatever it might be. And sometimes it'll just hit you out of the blue. You can't explain it. And again, I had one of them moments today while driving. And that will happen very frequently. And that's the beauty of having that altar and that connection set up and something working consistently with your ancestors. Because as I said before, that's the foundation. I don't care what anybody says. All right. For Brother B in the room, how do you come upon your magical name if you use one? Excellent question. I always suggest to people, now, one, as you go through different systems, sometimes the name, let me give you an example. I can only obviously explain my personal experiences and what I do know with some others that I've been affiliated with. One, when I first started out, and others will tell you, sometimes names are given to you by elders. You master a certain system. Usually the name determines, you're gonna, like my name, I've gone through multiple name changes since 1987, depending on the spiritual system that I've been in, usually reflects what you've mastered. It reflects your nature, your personality, your characteristics. And you're supposed to live up to that name, that spiritual and magical name. You're supposed to be a living embodiment of it, and it's supposed to be representation of who and what you are. It does get to a point where you pick, like the name I use now, I personally picked myself, was guided by the spirits to pick it for myself because it represents where I'm at in my journey and who and what I am. So how you get your magical name, right, or come upon one, it should just resonate with you. It could be given to you because you've mastered a certain path. Because you'll see people with magical names from different have origin in different cultures and systems. Usually, it determines something they vibe with or resonated with. So, since I work a lot of Egyptian left-hand path magic, that's why, hence, I have an Egyptian name, being I utilize Set as the real Prince of Darkness, and I work with a lot of the different Egyptian archetypes when I'm working what some would call greater black magic. Therefore, the name that I took was Beniti, which means teacher, Amun of the hidden one, Amun Ra, teacher of the hidden one, right? Because that represents to me, not hidden in the sense of spooky, unknown, because you don't let everybody know what you're doing. Real work is personal, it's private. Hidden in the sense, the only one that knows is the one carrying it out. That's how I work my magic. I'm not open about it. Like I said, somebody had asked one time in the chat room a couple months ago, did you ever work a death curse on somebody? Like I would talk about that openly in an open fucking room like this. Come on now. You see, the name has a significance. So you choose the name and it should have a significance to you, a deep internal meaning, and it should represent something because especially when you're performing rituals, whether it's collectively or in a group, there are certain points in some invocations where your name is placed in there. Yeah, you can use your regular birth given name, but it's not as powerful because the spirits know you by a different name in the spiritual realm. They don't know you by your given birth name because that's something that you were given in this, or on this physical realm. So it's good to have a spiritual name, and most spiritualists, master magicians, high priests, they're always known by a sacred name in the inner chamber or the temple, whatever you want to call it. That's the importance of it. I've always suggested people at some point to take a magical name. Really how you should do it on this path, outside of the traditional path, is start to search and look for one that represents you, your character, your nature, and your personality, and something you can live up to. It's that simple. All right. I'm going to get you one of them starter kits. Let me stop. I'm telling you, man, start a website, Conscious Starter Kits. Get them. They're hot. I'm have a couple different kinds. Get them while they're hot. $19.95 plus shipping and tax. Let me stop. All right. What else we got? Oh, shit. Wakanda, yeah. Funny how that shit died out quick, right? Once the hype was over, people going to the movies and dashikis and drumming and dancing after it's over. Same people that say that the movie industry has been programming melanated people for years. Walt Disney puts it out, they go support it. But then they're the same people that tell it on the flip side, Walt Disney's been exposing people for years. And that movie cracked $1 billion. And none of that money went into urban neighborhoods, areas where melanated people live. None of it went to black education. None of it went to black housing and economy, creating jobs. None of that shit, right? But you motherfuckers were so busy Wakanda and dancing around and putting on dashikis, you got caught up in the hype. It's funny. And I find out sometimes conscious people can be fooled quicker than religious, mentally dead people can be fooled, okay? And if you don't like that, I couldn't give a fuck. Because when I did that video on that, if you go in the archives, I did a whole video breaking down that movie. Man, I got some emails that have you cracking up. People was all in their feelings about that shit. I was just, man, I got out the popcorn, my peach snapple, was reading them shits cracking up. As you go to show you how people can react over some fictitious shit that's not even real. That's the shit that killed me. But the shit we're talking about right now, they think we're crazy, right? But you believing in that shit, not crazy. Okay, let me know how that works for you. But guess what? The reality is I couldn't give a fuck. All right. Yeah, man, look, man. Here's the thing. Christmas is magical, the only comment. This is why, man. Look, motherfuckers got to stop faking the funk. Everybody wants to play Africa, and I'm so spiritually cultural. And look, 90% of these motherfuckers grew up here in America. They were exposed to America. I don't care where the origin and ethnicity. Most of us grew up in this country. It just bothers me when people act like we don't have certain cultural and spiritual. I don't care what your essence or origin background. If you grew up here, you were exposed to this culture to some shape, form, or fashion. Now, I was one of those people. If you caught me on this subject about 2020, I was one of Santa represents Satan, and you see December 25th is the birthday of Nimrod, right? And Nimrod was the mother of Semiramis, and they say that when he died, his spirit would manifest every year around the evergreen tree. That's where the Christmas tree came from. Oh, did you know that mistletoe came from the Druids? And Christmas is a Druid holiday. Did you know that December 25th, that's the longest day of the year? It deals with solar work. Blah, 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 blah. Give me a fucking headache. See, I would look at it like that in that conscious coon mentality. Because at the end of the day, when you really look at it, we do the same thing that they did with Christmas that we do with magic. I don't give a fuck. I love Christmas. I love everything that's affiliated with it. I don't give a shit. Right? And Santa doesn't mean Satan. Santa's a Spanish word that means saint. Okay, so stop it. Stop it. If you take the word Santa and reverse the last two words, it spells Satan. Woo-hoo. Really? That's so fucking deep, man. You really sat down and really, that's heavy? You want to pass that heavy knowledge on, brother? I've heard it all. Trust me. There ain't nothing you're going to come at me with. I've heard it. Because I used to be one of them people about 20 plus years ago. Easter. See, you shouldn't celebrate Easter because Easter is really the Greek goddess Oster, and it deals with the ancient Greek gods. And see what they got you doing, bro. They got you falsely worshiping. Don't care. Celebrate all that shit. If you don't like it, I couldn't give two flying fucks. Christmas, there's just something about it, man. You know what's about it with me is because before, when we were kids, I don't give a fuck. When you was a little kid, you wasn't thinking you was being indoctrinated. It just has great memories for me as a kid being young, and it ties me into a certain energy. And I could take that energy from way back then when I was younger and manifest it now. That's called magic, motherfuckers. So whatever your stance is on it, I say Merry Christmas to people just to piss them off and get joy out of doing it. Especially if you're Jewish. It's not just being personal, but my thing is I'm not offended if you say Happy Hanukkah. That's your holiday. I respect that. I'm not offended if you say Happy Kwanzaa, whatever the fuck you celebrate. It don't bother me. I'm not on that tip no more. We've outgrown that. Learn to see the magic and everything, because what? Magic comes from within. Look, if I take the camera out, look, yeah, let me show you. Think I'm bullshitting? Let me show you. Okay? To show you, just so you see I ain't talking no shit here. I'm going to show you ass. Look. Let me show you this real quick. Let me show you. Just so you don't think I'm bullshitting. Think I'm just talking shit just to be talking shit. Let me show you. I'll show you right in here. I'm not going to go outside and show you, but see that? Look at that. See that? I'm going to hell because I celebrate Christmas. Look at that. Going to hell. Fireplace. Stockings. I don't give a fuck. I don't know if you can see it. I'm just trying to flip the camera. All right. So just so you know, I ain't talking smack. Oh, look. But oh shit, got the countdown counter. Look at that. Oh shit. Oh, I'm going to hell, man. With gasoline drawers on. Oh, there's my Saint Expedite with pop. Long story. I'll explain that another time. Going to hell. I'm going to hell, man. Shouldn't be doing that stuff, man. It's evil. So I'm going to go to hell with gasoline drawers on. But just so you can see, I wasn't just talking smack. And like I say, man, look, if you're still on it, that conspiracy is a conspiracy, brother. I'm not on that. I outgrew that shit years ago. All right. All right. So what else we got? So Christmas is magical. So Merry Christmas. If you don't celebrate it, still Merry Christmas to you. All right. Because Thanksgiving, all that shit. It's about family. It's about connecting with people you're close to and all that type of stuff. That's the aspect that I celebrate. Okay. That's what all that. Look. You can see the magic in all those symbols if you really know that. That's a whole other story. But anyway, I didn't even take you outside. You don't even want to see the front and the outside. That's a whole nother story. All right. Get through it. We're almost there, people. All right. Yeah, York BS. I feel you doing. That's all it was. That's all it was. Pure BS. Poor semantics and sensationalism. It's funny when you run into these kinds of people, how they could take one and they just sensationalize shit. I think about all that dumb shit. See, brother, you shouldn't play pool, brother. See, you got one black ball, right? Right? You got one white ball knocking all the colored balls in, and the last one to go is the black ball. It's racism, bro. Look, come on, man. I can't deal with that kindergarten bullshit. That's just some straight up. I could be here all day with all those fucking analogies, but anyway. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Lil Beneath. Yeah, he does want his gifts. All right, I think. Yeah, and definitely Racky J. It's about family, man. Look, man, like Thanksgiving, man. You see, man. Look, just talking about it. Yeah, I'm a little softy when it comes to this. I ain't gonna front. I love the holidays, man. Always have. Even when I was in that conscious shit, I had to suppress it. But then as I reflect back on it now, why was I suppressing something that was a natural energy that was creating something positive? Think about how stupid that was. But shit, this is my favorite time of year, man. I know some people might have, might be a negative time of year because tragedy happened. Even this time of the year is when my father got terminally ill. That's when he started to really go downhill this month. But I'm not going to let that destroy it, because I think of all the positive energy and all the many Christmases that I spent with my father. This will be the first one I ever didn't spend with my father, which will be a little tough, but we'll get our way through it. But look, man, the beauty of this path is having your freedom to pick and choose. And I'm not afraid to say that. I know if conscious people hear that, they'll be all over it attacking it. See, brother, you under a spell, my brother. See, no, I ain't under no spell. I'm casting the spells, motherfucker. You just don't see that. There's a difference. But I can sit here and 100% equivocally and be proud of it. I couldn't give a fuck. You don't have to, and I respect you. If you don't like anything about Christmas for your, I respect that, because that's your right. But at the same token, don't get mad at me if my personal outlook on it doesn't line with yours. I love Christmas. I love the holidays. I love Thanksgiving. I love New Year's. It's my favorite time of the year. Actually, Halloween. It actually starts at Halloween, because when Halloween kicks in, it just reflects me back to all them years growing up. And, if you're from the Northeast, them holidays are real big. I mean, they're big in, I'm sure, many places, the Midwest. It's a little different energy down here in the South, in Florida anyway. I mean, but it's big. My neighborhood's big. If you go outside, everybody's got stuff up. The neighborhood looks beautiful. I just love driving in and seeing that. It transforms you from one place to another. It's not front. We all at one point were hooked on Frosty and Santa Claus and Rudolph. Stop front, man. I'm in the car today listening to the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer song. Fuck that. It's classic shit, man. Come on, man. We got front like I just can't stand people. I don't care if you're Latino, black, whatever the fuck you are. You grew up in this country. Don't front like you ain't got a soft spot in your heart for that. So to me, shit, I love watching even the Christmas shows. You know what? Look, I'm probably telling you guys too much shit. You know you're a little fucked up with Christmas. Anybody got the Hallmark channel on cable? And those movies are pretty cheesy. I watched 3 of them goddamn things last night, and they're the cheesiest movies you can get. You know, they create the fictitious town and everything is Christmas and people gather in the town square and put up decorations. Come on, man. You know that shit. People front like they ain't look. To me, that's all love. That's all good shit. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I ain't hating on you. I don't care what. You can still be spiritual and power. Stop acting like motherfuckers acting like they don't celebrate Christmas. I used to know conscious cats back in the day were Muslim and they were celebrating Christmas. Christmas on the slide and shit, talking about they Muslim. I'm telling you, man, some funny ass shit, man, when I reflect back on it. But hey, I'm a grown ass man now. Fuck that. I celebrate Christmas. I don't care. I love this time of year. That's a beautiful time of year. Yeah, your mom oh wow. That's pretty scary, only because that's when my father went downhill the 27th. And his birthday is the 23rd, and he passed away on the 29th. That's crazy. Yeah, people. And I know where you at. Shit, you in Brooklyn, and I know what it's looking like around there now. I know the energies. That's one thing I miss about being in New York is this time of year. I know it could be cold and miserable, but man, ain't nothing like being in a place like that during the holidays. That energy is strong. It's pretty good here, even though we don't get the cold weather, but the area I'm in, which people don't know, is literally 5 minutes from where they had that Parkland school shooting. That's the area I'm in, which is borderline of North Lauderdale and South Palm Beach County. That's why I say anything can happen anywhere, even though it's a good area. Anything can happen anywhere. But this is a time of year, if you do celebrate, enjoy it, man. Fuck what people say. Wow, your mom's funeral was on the 20th. My father's was the February 3rd. He passed away on January 29th. So he made it to his 74th birthday. Passed away 6 days after his 74th birthday. That's crazy. So your mom's funeral was on the day he passed. Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, if you got kids, don't let them just enjoy it. They'll figure it out when they get older. They'll understand what it really represents. And you explain it to them. Like, well, I'm not going to take that away from my kid now. Let him enjoy it. You understand? Let him enjoy it. He has fun with it. He's going to get older. Well, come on, it's not going to last forever. You're going to know it's not. It's mythology, but have fun with it. That's the magical aspect of it. You can make it into whatever you want. But I just love it, man. So Santa Clauses, Christmas trees, Christmas decorations. It's fuck that. I mean, whatever. Everybody's got their own take on it, but I'm not going to sit here and cover that shit up and pretend like, fuck that. I couldn't care. All right. But anyway, you got me reminiscing about Christmas, as they say. Christmas is Christmas time. I think I'm going to watch some Christmas shit when I get off the damn thing, man. I'm going to go turn on the cheesy Hallmark channel. And maybe I do got some Christmas cocoa over there that wifey bought. I might dabble in some of that. We did the whole thing. Thanksgiving, man. We had the, Christmas going on, the songs on the Bluetooth, family over here. We were chilling. Yeah, eggnog. I love that shit too, man. Yeah, fuck that, man. Have fun with it, man. Enjoy yourself, people. Life is about enjoying it. Do what makes you happy. Whether you like Christmas or not, whether you like, putting hot sauce on your big toe, whatever makes you happy, do it, man. Don't let nobody deny you of being happy. All right. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. So next week, I'm not sure. I'm pondering again, as I said earlier, doing something on Saint Expedito, or as some people know as Saint Expedite, working with that spirit in the voodoo aspect. I'm really thinking about doing it because I keep getting my attention keeps going over there. And I did something at my father's ceremony with Saint Expedite. That's why I keep him over there by my father. He was actually on the altar at my father's. He was cremated, but I did the actual service and the ritual for my father. I refused to let anybody else do it. And as I said, I did Brother Jack assisted me in the ritual. People thought it was a non-denominational service. It was hilarious. They came up to me after, that was beautiful. What was that? I said, was that non-denominational? Yeah, it was non-denominational. Yeah, I got his pound cake right in front of him, only. And that spirit goes to work quick. I think about sharing some money secrets with you, some money magic with you. If you really need some money, I'll touch on it next week, but there's certain ways you got to go about it. But I love working with that. All right. So that's probably going to be for next week. Not sure, but it's being more clear to me by the day. All right. So if anybody would like to come at the end of the month, send me an email. I'll send you the invite. I know a couple of yous contacted me for readings. I've responded back. That week of Christmas, though, I ain't going to be doing none for a few days, just like I did Thanksgiving, because I took off for that whole week to chill. And that week I'm going to be chilling, family, celebrating the holidays and all that fun shit. So I know for that few day period from like the 22nd to like the 28th, like 5-6 day period, I won't be doing any readings or consultations. All right. It'll be Christmas time. All right. Hey, man, appreciate everybody. Appreciate the support. Appreciate everybody tuning in. You know, I enjoyed doing this. I definitely appreciate the feedback you guys gave tonight. It's good to see you guys were injecting a lot of good stuff on this topic and giving your experiences, and that's what I love to see. All right. Whoever is in the room that's taking the Saturday class, I will see you guys on Saturday afternoon. Peace. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see the rest of yous on next Tuesday. Peace.